Hey friends, before we dive into tonight's story, did you know that nearly 80% of viewers aren't subscribed? If you're enjoying this content, hit that subscribe button. It really helps keep these long stories coming. Also, for even more police horror stories, check out my new channel. The link's in the description and pinned comment. I'd love it if you stop by and subscribe. I'd love to hear from you. What time is it where you are and which city are you listening from tonight? Now, sit back, relax, and let's get into it. Just past the old oil pump, where the steel arms creak without a wind, I killed the engine. Footsteps on gravel. Mine. My boots grind against fractured rock, sending echoes into the black. I have a habit of stepping out of the car when everything around me goes silent. I can't stand the hum of the engine. It reminds me there's still a machine to drive, while my heart's already stalled. I check the oil rig. Rust stains drip down the lattice like old tears. The moonlight paints its legs in harsh white, but deeper down, shadows gather, and I squint to keep my vision trained. Once, a rancher told me the rigs in Wilbarger County would twist and groan like tortured souls at night, that if you listened close you could hear them whisper, voices asking for mercy that never came. I never believed him. Now I pause, lean against the railing, and swear I hear it. A low moan, a metallic groan, a voice. I swallow, my throat so dry I taste gravel. I flick on the flashlight and sweep it over the structure. No one's here. I catch a glint of something at my feet. A frayed rosary bead, bleached by years of sun. I crouch, finger the smooth sphere. It reminds me of my daughter's laughter on Sunday mornings. Long gone now that she's with her mother across the state line. I pocket the bead. Don't need another memory haunting me out here. Back in the cruiser, I pick up the mic. 1023, Wilbarger, nothing found, returning to main highway. My finger hovers over the gas pedal, but I stay planted. There's a thin sheen of sweat on my palm, where the cold metal of my service weapon meets my grip. I clench it, mindful of the weight, reminding myself I'm still here, still armed, still responsible. The road ahead is cracked, spiderwebbing across open country. No traffic signs have been replaced since Nixon, no paint refreshed. Even the center line is more myth than marking. I scan for taillights, none. My tires roll over a scattering of gravel that kicks up in little plumes, glittering under the stars. Half a mile on, the deserted station emerges. Van Horn Fuel and Supply, the sign says. Letters half missing. The station light is a dull orange, flickering. I step out again, pull my jacket tighter despite the heat. There's a detergent smell wafting in the air, like cleaning agents long since abandoned, mingling with the acrid sting of gasoline. A soda machine stands idle by the door, its glass panel smashed. Yellow wrappers litter the ground. Gum? Candy? I don't know. Nothing moves but a tumbleweed caught in the breeze. Inside the station, the floor tiles are missing chunks, revealing the rough concrete beneath. My shoes clack against chipped ceramic. I click the flashlight beam over the counter. Cash registers stripped, drawers open. A mixtape sits half-eaten by mice. The stereo speakers above are empty shells. I think of last month's homicide off Route 287 when I found a half-buried tape cassette in a shallow grave. I still haven't listened to it. The plastic is stained brown, and the label reads, "Play Me." Sometimes I drive home with it on the passenger seat hoping I'll find the courage to press play. I never do. Through the back door is a row of storage shelves. I follow my kick against a metal drum lying on its side, where green mold blooms in the seams. The air here is thick, like it's resisting movement. Static prickles across my skin. A CB transmission crackles alive, Anyone copy? Come in. The voice is distant, tinny, desperate. My hand hovers over the radio as I step closer. This is Deputy Holt, Lamb County. Go ahead. Silence, then a click and whisper. Don't trust the shadows. The line goes dead. Don't trust the shadows. I freeze. The words hang like a noose. My pulse hammers and I wipe sweat from my brow. Shadows pool in the corners. Every ragged cardboard box, every twisted wire, every drooping shelf leg metamorphoses into something alive, hungry. I shine the light at a crack in the ceiling. Maybe a bat, but nothing flutters. I breathe, slow, controlled. Training, years of it. Yet tonight, my stomach is a pit of vipers. I return to the cruiser and lock the door. The run-flat tires hum softly as I drive off. My chest heaves. CB crackles again, but I mute it, not ready for more ghosts. Up ahead, the highway slices north to Lamb County. If I keep my eyes straight, I can almost pretend I'm not alone. But when I glance at the rear view, the taillights of an unmarked vehicle shimmer, red dots hovering in the dark. I check the mirror again. Nothing. I slow down. Fear grips me. I tap the brakes lightly. The dots reappear, then vanish. My hand tightens on the wheel. The leather creaks beneath my fingers. By the time I reach the crossroads, I'm shaking. I kill the engine, roll down the window. The air rushes in, hot and silent. No engines, no animals, just the hum of cicadas and the whisper of wind in the mesquite. I step out, leave the door ajar. Dust billows between my boots. A gloaming glow on the horizon. City lights have post, civilization but miles away. The solitude presses in, suffocating, a blanket soaked in sweat and regret. I look down at the CB mic in my hand. The big silver switch feels heavy. I key it. 10-4, back at station. Nothing. No crackle, no acknowledgement. Strange, they'd usually say something. The night stretches behind me like an open wound. I can't shake the sense that I'm not alone, that someone, something, is watching. I climb back in, start the engine. As I pull away, I glance at the rearview mirror. A shape stands by the crossroads sign, tall, still, as if carved from darkness itself. I blink. Nothing. My vision clears and I see only the sign, Lamb County Arrow. The shape is gone. For a fleeting second, I imagine it moving, the head tipping, as if nodding. Then, the reflection fades. My heart pounds. I drive on. The radio crackles once more, faint. You can't run tonight. Static drowns out the rest. I snap off the radio and press my forehead against the steering wheel. I whisper to the empty cab, "Who are you?" No answer, but the engine's ticking cool down. I pull over again and step out. Can't trust the seat. My boots sink into loose gravel. I shine the flashlight toward the horizon. Just the road, stretching straight and merciless. I take a step, then another. The beam lances through the dark, revealing cracked asphalt and flash-fried tumbleweeds. I can almost see my breath, though the air is stifling. The beam catches something low. Footprints. Big, boot-shaped prints, wet and fresh, leading off the road into scrub. My chest tightens. I follow them, light sweeping over yucca and sagebrush. Each print is spaced with the deliberate gait of a human, but the depth like something heavier than flesh. Sweat beads on my brow. I glance back. No patrol car, no engine rumble. Only those prints urging me onward. I reach a clearing under a lone mesquite. The prints circle the tree, then vanish. My light flickers. The mesquite's twisted limbs cast claw shadows. I hear a click. My holster buckle. I freeze. The night holds its breath. Then a faint whisper. "You look tired." It sounds like me. My own voice, broken. I jerk the torch around. No one. My reflection in the cruiser's taillight lens stares back. glassy and hollow. Adrenaline surges. I spin and sprint back to the car. The gravel bites at my feet. I dive in, slamming the door. Start the engine, peel away. The headlights carve 2 white beams into the night. I don't dare look back. On the scanner. Unit 12 status? Static. I mute it again. My heart thunders. The roads blur. I grunt and press the pedal to the floor. The cruiser roars, tires howling. Behind me or ahead, I can't tell which, the red tail lights flash once, twice, then vanish for good. I exhale a ragged laugh, more horror than relief. My chest aches. I grip the wheel, knuckles white. My voice cracks as I key the mic. 10-6, need a break. Dispatch, copy. The night stretches on, and I wonder if I'll ever make it back to the station. I step out and the gravel bites into my boots. The night wind winds through the mesquite, carrying the scent of creosote and dust. My flashlight slices a cone of white out into the black, finding only empty fields and shifting shadows. There's a stillness here that feels deliberate, like the world is holding its breath, waiting. I slip my hand inside my jacket and grip the cold metal of my badge. It rattles softly against the holster. I breathe in, slow and measured, forcing my brain to calm the tremor in my chest. 10 years on this beat taught me how to master the tremor, control it, own it. But tonight it's slipping through my training. I squat at the edge of the asphalt where the print trail began. The indentations are clear in the dust, deep, purposeful. 7 long strides from the road, the prints stop at a crack in the earth. I shine the beam along the fissure. It widens here, decades of sun and heat splitting the clay. I can't see the bottom. The crack yawns like a wound. I stand and pace a circle around it, listening for anything. Creak, rustle, a telltale shift. Nothing. My breath puffs visible in the beam's circle, though the thermometer read 90 degrees on the cruiser's dash. I step closer, lean over, and swear I see movement at the bottom, a shimmer, like sunlight on water. But there's no water. I jerk back, palm stinging against my jacket sleeve. On the radio, static. Then a voice. "Holt, you copy?" It's Sergeant Alvarez from Post. Relief surges. I key the mic. "Alvarez, yeah, I copy. Where are you?" No answer. Only a click, then silence. I turn from the fissure. My light picks out the station again, the skeletal pumps, only they look different. The arms are higher, almost reaching for the sky. I blink. They're still broken in the same pattern, but now the moonlight shifts the shadows so they stretch like fingers. I peer at the rig. The base is sunk deeper into the ground, as if it's being pulled away. The metal groans, low and resonant, making my ribs vibrate. My hand flies to the holster. I draw my pistol in one practiced motion and shine the beam along the barrel. It catches a bead of something dark near the muzzle, dried mud or oil. I exhale, focus. Not an omen, just grit. I follow the barrel's line upwards, expecting the arm to be still, but it trembles inhumanly. I react before I think, yell, "Hey, show yourself." My voice cracks. Silence. Then the beam flickers, and out of nowhere the rig's arm lunges towards me, swinging with impossible speed. I stumble back, drop the flashlight. It spins on the gravel, casting strobing circles on the steel. I dive for it, thumb the switch, and fire a burst into the darkness. The shot cracks like thunder. Rock chips explode at the rig's base. I curse, heart pounding. The beam stabilizes and I scan frantically. No target, only empty air. I stand, chest heaving, and yell, "Come on!" expecting a reply. None comes. I kick at the base of the rig. It stands motionless. I kick harder. A star falls, and far off, I think I hear a soft chuckle. Dry, contemptuous, and too low for human lungs. I stumble back, grab my flashlight, and race to the cruiser. The door slams behind me. I lock it. Fingers fumbling, I hook the weapon back in the holster. My badge clinks. I lean forward, start the engine. The dashboard lights bloom, reflecting in my eyes. I flash the headlights on the rig. White light spills across the structure, and I see it clearly for the first time. Smeared handprints along the metal, black as tar. No human could leave prints that spread and distort like that. Skin and shadow fused. I drive off, leaving the rig behind, but a stain of dread creeps through me. The road is empty. Every mile marker passes in silence. I don't dare check the mirror. Instead, my eyes stay on the cracked yellow lines. Each one looks broken, like my bones. My radio crackles. "Status, Holt?" I mutter, "I'm returning," and kill the mic. No one needs to know. I reach the crossroads where Route 287 meets County Road 214. The sign glows pale under the light. Flickering. I stop. Cut the engine. Step out again, drawn by the growing dread. The print trail resumes here, each step stamped into the asphalt, pointed west where the darkness deepens. I feel their weight beneath my boots. Blade-sharp anxiety floods me. I crouch and press my palm into the dust. Cool, gritty. The prints feel fresh, minutes old. I shine the light down the western path. The beam sifts through the black, picking out a single figure at the curve's edge. A man in silhouette, wide-brimmed hat tipped low, shoulders broad. He stands motionless. I stand, light trembling in my hand. "Who are you?" I bark. No answer. Then a low hum, like distant vehicle engines revving, but no roads there. The figure remains still. Slowly, he raises an arm, pointing. I shift the beam to the direction indicated. Another oil rig, one I haven't seen before, appears between the dunes. It glows with an unearthly sheen under the starlight. My grip tightens. "Don't trust the shadows." The voice comes back through the CB, dying mid-word. A relic of fear embedded in my mind. The figure's hat lifts, revealing a face pale as moonlight. No eyes, only hollows. Empty. I stagger back. The light drops. My flashlight flickers off. I'm swallowed by black. My breath hammers. I fumble for the switch. Hard in my throat, I click it back on. The figure is gone. My boots skid on the gravel. I sprint to the cruiser, throw myself inside, lock the doors. I start the engine and peel away so fast the gravel sprays. The dashboard clock reads 2:17. The night is still young. I hit the siren by accident, one long wail that echoes across the fields. I kill it. My ears ring. The radio crackles. "Unit 12, are you—" But I mute it. I don't want to answer. I put the cruiser in drive and gun the engine toward Archer City. I stare past the wheel, into the dark, searching for the glow of dispatch lights. My heart slams like a steel trap. I know I'm running. Running from the emptiness at my back, from the hollows in my past that twist into the shadows out here. Running from the thing that moved like a man but felt like a nightmare. Behind me, in that silent oil field, the rigs stand guard, silent sentinels marking the boundary between the living and whatever lurks beyond. And I, an old sheriff's deputy, broken but still breathing, am driver and witness to it all. I hit the highway's main artery. The lights of town bleed into the horizon. I slow, pull in front of the station. The door flies open before I kill the engine. My boots clack across the tile. Inside, the dispatcher's eyes widen at my face. Sweat, fear, disbelief, etched deep. "What the hell happened, Holt?" I flick off the flashlight and set it on the desk. The beam lingers, catching dust motes. I lean forward, hand braced on the counter. My voice is raw. Dispatch, I say. Lock. Everything down, no one leaves tonight. The captain's radio crackles. Copy that, but his tone is skeptical. I slide the rosary bead from my pocket, place it beside the mic. We pray, I whisper, for what we can't see. Behind me, the door shuts. I stand alone in the fluorescent glare, the echoes of the rig's groan still rattling my bones. And I wonder if I can ever close the fissure I opened out there in the desert, if those handprints will wash away, or if they're stamped onto my soul forever. I kill the cruiser's engine in the bay of the Lamb County Sheriff's Office, but my chest doesn't stop pounding. The fluorescent lights slice through the windshield, harsh and unforgiving. I sit for a moment, the seat cool against my sweat-damp shirt, and press my palm to my forehead. My radio is silent. No dispatcher checking in, no backup dispatched on my panic call. Just the echo of my breath and the distant hum of the town's night machinery. The water treatment plant turbine, the auto shop's neon sign flickering, the hum of streetlights. After what feels like an hour, I'm stiff enough to move. I open the door and step onto the cracked pavement. The night air here is different, thicker, laced with the scent of cedar and distant livestock. The station's back entrance faces a chain-link fence that backs into scrubland. I walk to it, my boots scuffing against the gravel, and peer through. The mesquite and prickly pear are black masses against the horizon, but beyond them the oil rigs loom, faint silhouettes like ghost sentinels just past the tree line. I took a bead from that muddy rig, those smeared handprints, and tucked it into my pocket before I came in. I fish it out now, turn it over with my fingers. It's rough, coated in grit and something sticky. I wipe it on my pant leg and catch a sharp scent, ozone, like electrical discharge but rotten. I raise it to my nose, stale sweat and something like decay. I pocket it again, gotta get it checked. Chemical analysis, maybe. If I'm going mad, I want proof. I return inside and find the captain in the records room, eyes red-rimmed over a stack of patrol logs. He looks up, startled. "You okay?" he asks. His voice is low, wary. The desk lamp casts half his face in shadow. I shake my head. No. I lean against the doorframe. I saw him again. He closes the ledger. Who? The silhouette, the one at the crossroads. My voice is flat, but my hands tremble. No eyes, pointed me toward a rig, whispered through the CB, told me not to trust the shadows. He presses his lips together, then nods once. Let's get you off duty. You need rest. No. I shove off the frame. I'm not stopping until I know what I'm dealing with. I stare at him. You want to believe it's a hallucination? Fine. But I'll be damned if it kills someone because I buried it in report. He sighs, rubs his temples. All right, but I'm issuing you a partner. Deputy Ruiz will ride with you from now on. You're not in this alone. I nod. I don't want company, but I have no choice. I return to my cruiser and find Ruiz waiting by door. She stands straight-backed, arms crossed, expression unreadable. She's been on the Carthage beat for 2 years. Steady, no nonsense. "Morning, Deputy Holt," she says. Her tone is polite but firm. "Rain check," I mutter and toss her the extra shotgun from the rack. "Take that?" She catches it, surprised, but straps it across her chest. "You saw something out there." I grip the rosary bead in my pocket. Something might be nothing, but maybe it's everything. Dawn bleeds pale and pink across the scrubland as we roll west on County Road 214. I keep the patrol light off. The world belongs to me and to the shadows that still cling to the earth. Ruiz scans relentlessly, eyes darting between the horizon and her phone's GPS, as if mapping a different reality. I glance over at her, Her face is calm, professional. I wonder if she already knows the stories of rigs that groan at night, of missing children's laughter in the wind, of deputies who never make it back. We stop at the crossroads. The asphalt is stained where my footprints lingered hours ago. I step out again, Ruiz behind me, shotgun ready. I push my flashlight beam into the darkness toward the mesquite line. The horizon is empty. No silhouette, no whisper. Just the rig ghosting at the edge of sight. I sweep the beam over the cracked pavement and find fresh prints. 2 sets. Mine and another set, shaped deeper, wider, like someone larger than me. I kneel, run a gloved finger through the dust. The prints vanish after 10 feet, end abruptly at the desert edge. I stand and rub my neck. Ruiz shines her light over the ground. "Nothing," she says. "Not nothing," I say. "Something." My voice trembles. Someone was here, walking beside me, watching. She frowns. "You want to open up about last night?" The question hits like a bullet. I swallow, glance at the rig at the tree line. It's still. But in the dawn haze, the metal seems softer, like flesh. I grit my teeth. There's no time for therapy. We need to find out who or what left those prints. Ruiz reaches into her jacket and pulls out a handheld GPS and a small drone controller. I brought a drone, thermal, ranges about a mile. We can scan the scrub for recent heat signatures. Relief and annoyance war inside me. Relief that she believes enough to bring equipment. Annoyance that I need her to do the looking. But I nod. Do it. She powers up the drone. It rises, humming like an angry hornet, and angles toward the flats. On the monitor, drifting too slowly, a patchwork of browns and grays bursts to life. The rig silhouette becomes a bright heat spot surrounded by cooler ground. She pans south, north, west, past the rigs, past the fence. At the horizon, a new heat source flickers, then moves, a faint trail of warm footprints. I lean in, zoom. Ruiz adjusts the feed. A figure emerges. Tall, wide shoulders, hat. It's standing 10 feet from another rig. Her voice is flat. There's someone out there. My heart stutters. Let's go. We drive down the embankment to where the drone marked the figure. The rig's rusted legs tower overhead. My flashlight picks out smeared prints on the metal again, like before, but larger. 2 pairs, side by side. I glance at Ruiz. Her face is ghost white. I crouch and shine the light upward, tracing the prints. They vanish where the rig's platform begins. I look up and spot a hatch at mid-height. The metal ladder is rotten in places, but someone could climb it. I point. Up there. Ruiz murmurs, "Holy," and boots the pickup into drive, racing to the ladder's base. She unclips her shotgun and aims it. "Deputy Holt, are you nuts?" I crouch and peer through the hatch's opening, flashlight extended. Inside is darkness so absolute it swallows the beam. I can't see the bottom, but I hear something, a faint rasp like cloth dragged across metal. Something heavy shifting. Ruiz curses, leans close. "Holt, get back." I ignore her. I hook my arm through the ladder rung and pull myself halfway up. The metal creaks alarmingly. My gloved hand brushes something soft. Cloth, maybe canvas. I grip it. It tears. I look at my glove, a shard of denim. I yank my hand back. The cloth is gone. I scramble down. Dust and rust fall around me. I scratch at the dirt, looking for a clue. A scrap of fabric catches in the gravel. A piece of shirt, dark blue. I scoop it up. The weave is coarse, the stain sticky and black. I smell it. Iron, blood. I turn and fling the fabric into the brush. "They're sick," I mutter. "Experimenting? Hunting us?" Ruiz leaps down and grabs my arm. "We're leaving." I don't move. The rig groans above us. a deep, resonant sound like metal bone cracking. I raise my flashlight. The inside of the hatch glows faintly. Something scuttles deep inside. Ruiz yanks me back. "We're done here." She hauls me into the truck. I slump in the passenger seat, panting. She floors it, spitting gravel behind us. The rig fades, silent once more, as we tear toward the pavement. At the station, we debrief. Photos, prints, fabric sample. Evidence goes into plastic bags, tagged. The crime lab will analyze. The captain stares at the reports, troubled. Whoever did this was testing weapons. Or us. I shake my head. Not weapons. Fear. In the following days, Ruiz and I chase down calls. Ghost lights at abandoned farmhouses, missing livestock near rigs. CB chatter with distorted voices, pleading for help. Each is a fragment. Prints that vanish. Whispers on open channels. Glimmers of movement at field edges. We map incidents across Wilbarger and Lamb County, drawing lines that form a jagged trail. Whoever, or whatever it is, moves fast, always just beyond reach. Night after night I ride with Ruiz. The desert becomes a maze of half-remembered shadows, of rigs that twitch like muscle, of distant voices that echo my own fears. I can't tell where I end and the dark begins. My dreams are full of boots walking alone, cassette tapes turning, and the shapeless man pointing from the rig's edge. Then, one evening, dispatch calls. Domestic disturbance on 109. A farmhouse west of Archer City. I pull in behind Ruiz. The porch light is on. The front door stands ajar. We approach. The beam crosses a threshold. Family photos on a table. A toddler's shoes by the couch. A rocking chair swinging slowly. No wind. Ruiz covers me with the shotgun. I whisper, "Be ready." Inside, the living room is empty, but for a circle of boot prints leading from the doorway, through the house, disappearing into the dark beyond. The prints are large, deeper than my own. I step in, careful. The chair swings again. No creak of wood, just motion. I follow the prints to the hallway. The toddler's bedroom door is closed. I push it open. The crib is empty. The toys on the floor are arranged in a spiral. Wooden blocks stacked and toppled in concentric rings. The walls are scrawled with charcoal. "I see you." My pulse rockets. Ruiz yanks me back as the door slams. We both spin but see nothing. Then the crib mattress rises, slowly, impossibly, until the sheet dips and folds. A shape emerges, dark, shifting, like smoke. It leaps free, slides down the hallway, and bursts through the back wall into the yard. We run outside, flashlights swinging. The yard is empty, the screen door torn off its hinges. In the dirt, fresh prints vanish into the field. Beyond, rigs stand silent sentinel. The night wind carries a distant laugh. A child's giggle that stretches into a scream. Ruiz and I lock eyes, no words needed. We head back to the cruiser, collecting prints along the fence, whispers on the scanner, the ghost trail guiding us deeper into the country's marrow. The next morning, I sit alone in my office, rubbing my temples. A knock at the door, the lab tech. She holds up a slide. "Your sample." I take it, stare at the blood smear under the microscope. It's human. A B positive, rare. That could belong to the rancher's daughter, the toddler, the missing children. My daughter's blood type was AB positive too. I look up, voice barely a whisper, "No." My world tilts. I clutch the rosary bead in my palm. The station is silent around me. I press my forehead to the door, overcome by a dread that's no longer professional. It's personal. Footsteps outside. I stand. The door clicks open. Ruiz stands there, eyes wide. She holds her phone, playing a voice memo. Copy this. Holt, I'm here. The audio crackles. Beneath it, faint but clear, my daughter's laughter. I spin, flashlight in hand, heart in my throat. The corridor is empty. The beam falls on the badge on my desk. Then the bead, then the smear slide. A whisper brushes my ear. Don't trust the shadows. I'm still buzzing from last night's shift, but my feet are already on County Road 214 before I have fully woken. Dawn's arms are pulling open the sky, and the rigs on the horizon look like silent giants, their silhouettes etched in bruised purple. Deputy Ruiz is in the passenger seat, quiet. Her shotgun rests across the dash. Neither of us speaks as we roll toward the old Harper farmhouse on the south side of Archer City. The Harper place sits back from the road, half hidden by mesquite. The wind has kicked up, carrying tumbleweed and dry dust. The front door hangs open on one hinge, swaying like a pendulum. I kill the engine. My hand hovers on the door handle before I place it gently. The wood groans, far too loud, and I push it the rest of the way. A rush of stale, hot air greets me, laced with sour milk and something coppery. Inside, the floorboards are worn narrow by generations of footsteps. Each creak under my boots echoes through empty rooms. I flick on the flashlight, and it cuts a tunnel of light through floating moats. The living room is empty except for antique furniture and an old phonograph in the corner, its horn lopsided. I step around a bent rocker, following faded floral carpet to the kitchen. Rusted spoons hang crooked on a rack. A kettle sits on the stove, dry, caked with dust, but one burner is smashed. Ruiz sweeps her light behind me. They left in a hurry, she murmurs, stepping over a shattered plate. I nod, my throat tight. Blood smears around a coffee mug stained black. I shine my beam on a pattern of muddy boot prints tracing from the back door to the living room. Only one set, mine from last night. I crouch, touch the edge of a print, cool and hard. Dried mud, not fresh. A cold prickle zips from my spine. I stand and head toward the hallway. A child's drawing is taped to the wall, crayon scribbles of stick figures under a blazing sun. One figure is missing arms. A red smear streaks the paper. I feel bile rise. I tear my eyes away and continue down the hall. The doors are shut. I reach the first one, bedroom labeled Emily. The knob is warm. I catch that in my periphery. Warm. Someone was here minutes ago. I twist it. The door swings open into darkness. The flashlight swings up. Pink walls scrawled with childish handprints, but in the center letters scratch deep. Help me. The handprints are larger than child's, almost adult size but smeared. Panic hammers in my ears. I step in and the beam lands on the bed. The mattress is folded at the foot, sheets tangled. I lean forward, breathing hard. There's a faint rustle. Something moves beneath the covers. Don't, I whisper, thumb on the holster. I flip the covers back in one motion. The frame is empty. No one's there. Only the mattress imprint. A shallow depression, like someone sat and then vanished. My reflection stares back from the window, hollow-eyed, sweat-slick. I close the door slowly. Behind me, a soft thump. I spin. The door creaks. I swear it wasn't like that a second ago. My heel catches a wire on the floor, and I stumble. Ruiz's light cuts to my face. Holt! She sees the drawing in my hand. It's ripped from the wall. What is that? She demands. Emily, I say. She's gone. I hold up the picture. The handprint near the sun. Smudged. The lines thick with something dark. I touch it. Not mud this time. It's sticky like congealed blood. We race back to the living room. I grab the radio. Dispatch, this is Holt. Missing persons at Harper Farmhouse. Possible abduction. Send air unit. Nothing but static. I slam the mic down, no response. Clifton Aeromedical lifted off hours ago. No one's left in the sky. Ruiz grabs my arm. Search the well, she says. The front yard slopes to a fenced well. I follow reluctantly. The well is covered by a rusted grate, chained. The chain is cut, links scattered. I kneel, shine the light down the shaft. Only darkness. No rope, no bucket. My stomach roils. I lean in. The beam picks up something clinging 10 feet down. A small white shoe, sole facing me. I twist the grate aside. Rust flakes in my glove. I lower the flashlight head first, heart hammering. The beam glints on the shoe, barn dirt caked along the seams. I nod to Ruiz. She ties a rope to a post and lowers a throw bag. It swishes into the black. Minutes pass. I hear her call. Got it, she hauls. The rope jerks. Up it comes a towel, soaked, sticky, tied in knots too small for a child to make. I undo a knot. It's soaked in brown streaks. I pull at it. Something shifts inside. My glove brushes fabric. I yank it open. Inside is the doll. Porcelain face cracked, eyes gouged. Its tiny body is wrapped in that same cloth. It's empty. No stuffing, no hair. A single button is sewn into the chest. A tarnished badge with no number. I hold it up. The metal glints. A badge from Lamb County, but months old, not issued to me. I pocket it, numb. I blink. The well shaft behind me is silent. I look down again. The beam lands on a new print on the dirt floor. Enormous, boot-shaped, toe pointing inward, toward me. I stifle a scream. Ruiz tightens her grip on the shotgun. We stare at the print, then at each other. No, I whisper, it can't. But the print is there, too large to be mine, too deliberate. It vanishes where the beam doesn't hit, like the footprint stops at the edge of the light. I shine wider. The print remains intact, its outline precise. I stand. Get back, I say, voice shaking. Ruiz steps away. I pull my service weapon, aim at the shaft. I squeeze the trigger. The shot reverberates off stone, shattering silence. Rock chips rain down. The shaft rumbles. I don't wait. I sprint away, hauling Ruiz with me. We scramble into the cruiser. I start the engine and peel out, wheels screeching. The road's a blur. The doll's button burns my palm. I toss it into my cup holder. Behind us, the Harper farmhouse recedes, its windows dark and empty. The rigs beyond stand mute witness. Wind whips dust into spirals that chase the cruiser. On the scanner, a voice emerges. 10-4, unit en route. I mute it. I stare forward, chest tight, adrenaline coursing. Emily's drawn, flutters on the passenger seat. I grab it, fold it into my jacket. Somewhere out there, between the rigs and the shadows, someone holds a little girl's fear like a prize, and they're using our own nightmares as bait. I flick on the headlights and speed toward Archer City. The sun is up now, but out here the light only carves the darkness into more edges. The map in my mind redraws itself. Rigs, crossroads, Harper farmhouse, and every ghost trail in between. I know where I must look next, but before I do, I have to admit it out loud. I'm not afraid of the dark, I whisper, hands tight on the wheel. I'm afraid of what hides in the light. I ease the cruiser onto County Road 214 before sunrise fully breaks, the wheel a lifeline trembling beneath my grip. Dawn's light slashes the horizon, staining the rigs in bruised violet and rusty gold. I press the CB mic to my lips. Dispatch. Holt, ETA a few minutes. No response. The static of silence scratches at my patience. Deputy Ruiz leans forward, eyes on the windshield, scanning for anything that moves in the half-light. Her shotgun rests across her lap like a cold promise. We crest a small rise where the ground flattens into scrubland. The Harper farmhouse shrinks behind us. Somewhere between the rigs and the old schoolhouse turned community center, Emily Harper's laughter lingers, echoing like a memory I can't shake. I clamp my jaw. This hunt feels personal now, every shadow a betrayal. Half a mile ahead, a battered sign reads Gregson's Mercantile, with half its letters missing. I kill the engine in front of the empty lot. We exit the cruiser silently. Gravel grinds beneath our boots. The morning air tastes of ozone and old oil. I shine the flashlight across the storefront windows, cracked and grimy, reflecting the rigs behind me like watchful eyes. A single door hangs off its hinge. She's never been here, I murmur, but someone left a message. I raise my beam to the faded wood. Scratched into the frame, large letters, "Help stop him." The word "him" is underlined twice. Ruin's flashlight sweeps down to a pool of dark liquid seeping from the threshold, congealed, black-brown, and glistening. My pulse hammers in my ears. I crouch, finger the edge of the stain, sticky. I smell iron, blood. I stand and cross the threshold. Inside, dust motes swirl in the beam's cone. The floorboards creak underfoot. In the center of the room, 4 chairs are arranged in a circle, their backs to one another. The chairs are old, oak, warped by humidity. Each seat holds an object, a child's shoe, a single earring, a broken toy soldier, and a silver compass. I approach the compass. Its needle spins erratically, catching on no direction. I hold it over the beam. The metal casing is encrusted with mud, fresh. Ruiz kneels before the shoe. "This is little Emily's size," she whispers. The shoe is brown leather, scuffed. Inside, I spot a folded scrap of paper. I pull it out, a list of names scrawled in jagged handwriting: Harper, Davis, Pierce, Holt. My name stabs my heart. Someone marked me as a target alongside the Harper girl and 2 other families from Wilbarger County. The other 2 names I recognize. Davis family vanished last month. Pierce was a rancher whose wife disappeared. The list ends with Holt underlined. A slow dread seeps in. I glance at Ruiz, her face ashen. "We've been traced," I say. "He's not just hunting kids, he's hunting us." Footsteps crack the silence outside. We spin. The front window rattles. I sweep the beam out. Nothing. Then soft tapping, slow, against the glass. Tap, tap, tap. I edge toward the window. The tapping stops. Ruin's shotgun clamps tighter. I press my palm to the glass. It's cold. Outside, footprints press the gravel in a half circle. 2 deep boot prints stopping short of the wall. No sign of a person. I back away, breathe shallow. Every fiber screams to run, but I can't leave those families in danger. I push past Ruiz toward the back exit. The boards are splintered. I force them aside with a kick. Metal snaps. We spill into the dirt alley behind the Mercantile. Faint tire tracks veer toward an access road leading to the rigs. We follow. The drone is already in my pocket. I activate it. It hums up, camera whirring. I watch on the monitor as it climbs above the rigs. The image resolves to a panorama. Rigs, scrubland, the Mercantile. Then, at the far edge of the feed, I see a glimmer, white against the dust. Zoom. It's a figure kneeling beside a small body at the base of a rig. The body is covered in a quilt, still. A small hand protrudes. The figure stands, tall hat tipped low. The drone feed shudders. The figure turns, faces the camera. No face, just darkness. The drone camera glitches, static bursts, then cuts. I fling the controller aside. He's moving kids between rigs. We have to stop him now. Ruiz shakes her head. We're outgunned. I slam my fist into the truck door. Not tonight. We bring them home. We race down the sandy track toward the rig. The ground trembles under our tires like a warning. We round the base of the structure. The shadowed hatch gapes at us. I kill the lights. We slip out, boots silent on the earth. I shine my beam at the ladder. The hatch is closed. I check my pistol, round in the chamber. I lean close to the steel and whisper, "Too slow." Then I kick the hatch. It bursts inward. I fall through onto a grated platform. The air is musty. I pull Ruiz through behind me. Above us, a faint whine. Rotor blades from another drone sweeping inside. My teeth clench. He's guarding the space. I sweep the light around. Cables snake along the walls, ending in cloth sacks and harnesses, each marked with a name tag. I scan them. Pierce, Davis, Harper. My heart freezes when I see Holt scratched on a yellowed tag. Ruiz gasps. I kick at a sack. It rips. A small bound hand falls free. I catch it reflexively. It goes limp in my fist. I look up at the ceiling. A rail system runs above, like an industrial gallows. Hooks dangle. Beneath, a platform holds a single figure lying face down. Blue quilt, blonde hair spilling free. Emily. Rage floods me. I leap for the rail hooks, hauling myself upward. My boots scrape sparks off metal. I unhook the harness holding Emily in place. Her breathing is shallow but alive. I hear clicking behind me. I spin, gun raised. The tall figure steps into the beam, coat muddy, visage blank. It raises its hand. I fire. The shots tear through the metal walls, ricochet off beams. The figure staggers, but I keep firing. Sparks fly where bullets meet metal. Ruiz runs to Emily, cutting straps. I rack the slide of my pistol, empty. I toss the weapon aside, barehanded. The figure lunges, I tackle it. We crash onto the grated floor. He fixes me with a glare of pure void. I shove him. He sails backward into a console, wires sparking. A fuel pipe ruptures. The hiss of gas fills the air. Ruiz shouts, "Holt! Explosive!" She hauls Emily to her feet. I scramble up, dragging this whole, unmoving figure. I shove it through the open hatch. It falls into the abyss, screams swallowed by steel. I slam the hatch shut, bolt it. We race back down the ladder. Ruiz cradling Emily, tears in her eyes. At the bottom, she hands Emily to me. The girl's eyes flutter open, blue and burning with fear. I wrap her in my jacket, whisper, "You're safe." Behind us, the rig trembles. I sprint to the cruiser, blast the ignition. Sparks erupt from the rig. Flames lick the metal structure. We peel out as it explodes in a roar that shudders the earth. We don't stop until we reach the Harper house. I carry Emily inside. Ruptured sunflowers hang in a vase untouched. Her mother stumbles in, shrieks, and collapses. I kneel, hold Emily tight. The smoke from the rig drifts across the morning sky, black plume twisting against blue. I stand, gaze at the horizon where the rigs rise. Our work isn't done. The list of names still hangs in my mind. The smear on the chair in the mercantile still stains my thoughts. Emily sobs in my arms. I brush her hair back. "You're safe," I repeat. But in the shaken air, that promise tastes false. Because out there, in the rigs, the shadows, the twisted mind of whoever orchestrated this, others wait. And I know each will come down that list, one by one, until the last name is struck. I look at Emily's tear-streaked face and steel myself. The rigs stand silent now, but they will groan again. And I will answer their call. The heat of mid-afternoon does nothing to dry the sweat on my brow as we race east on Highway 82 toward Pecos. Deputy Ruiz, ghost white behind the wheel, is silent, cradling Emily in the passenger seat. Her breaths are soft, rhythmic. The radio crackles with static, drowned by my own heartbeat. I keep my eyes on the road. Endless asphalt flanked by scrub, oil rigs like skeletal sentinels marching across the plains. The air smells of gasoline, dust, and something fouler. Fear. My boots thud on the cruiser's floor as I shift in the passenger seat, cradling Emily's small frame against my chest. Her pulse is faint but steady. Every mile marker we pass feels like a countdown. Another name waiting on that list. Another family torn apart. I press my face into the sun-faded leather of the seat, trying to quiet the panic in my mind. Ruiz pulls the cruiser off at the Pecos exit. The Morton Civic Center looms ahead. Brick facade, windows boarded after last year's floods. We need a secure place far from the rigs. I kill the engine. Silence crashes inside the cab. I finally let Emily slip from my arms into Ruiz's care. I open the door. The heat hits me like a wall. I step out, boots crunching on gravel, and survey the empty lot around the center. No rigs here, no rattling pumps, only the distant hum of traffic on Interstate 20. I draw a deep breath, sunlight burning my lungs. Inside, the lobby's cool and dim. I lead Emily to a folding table Ruiz has cleared for us. She wraps the girl in a blanket. Emily's eyes are glassy, distant. I crouch to her level. "You're gonna be okay," I murmur. She blinks once, then tightens her grip on my shirt. I meet her gaze, bright blue, frightened yet trusting. It kills me. Ruiz rifles through her kit and pulls out an evidence bag. "Hold this," she says, handing Emily her radio mic. Emily clutches it like a toy. The wires tangle around her fingers. She smiles briefly, the first sign of life. My chest loosens just enough to blink back tears. The Civic Center's back hallway echoes with footsteps, not ours. I stand, pistol drawn, heart hammering. Ruiz snaps up beside me. We move toward the noise. Heavy boots stomp from the main hall. I press myself flat against the wall, peering around the corner. A man in dark coveralls strides past, hat low, shoulders broad. He pauses at the end of the corridor, listening. I catch the glint of something in his hand. A badge. Gold, tarnished, unmarked. My breath catches. He tucks it inside his jacket and moves on. I follow, silently as a shadow. His path leads him to the janitor's closet. He slips inside. I knock once, hard. The door swings open. He stands in the narrow space, face half hidden by brim. No eyes, only darkness beneath the hat. He doesn't speak. He lifts a hand, empty. I step back, pistol raised. "Drop it," I command. Ruiz appears at my side. The figure tilts his head, then steps back into the closet's gloom. The door clicks shut. I jam my shoulder into it. It gives. Inside, mops drip into buckets. Cleaning supplies line the shelves, and then a folded figure in the back corner. It's not a person, it's a vest rigged with wires and a speaker. The speaker crackles to life with a child's voice. "Help. Me." The tint of Emily's laughter echoes around us. "Trap," Ruiz hisses. I scan the small space. On the wall, scribbled in black marker, "Holt, I found your weakness." Beneath, a photo of my daughter, smiling at 6, in our old living room. I yank down the photo, tears stinging. We bolt from the closet. The corridor is empty. The man in coveralls stands at the end, watching. He raises the speaker like a command. The system roars, static. Then my daughter's voice calling, "Daddy?" The sound bends, distorts into a scream. My vision blurs. I spin, fling the speaker away. It shatters against lockers. Pieces rain down. The figure steps backwards, dissolving into shadow. I hear my own voice crack. "Whose voice?" I charge. I'm on him before he can vanish. My fist connects with steel. He staggers but doesn't fall. The hat tilts, and I catch the edge of a grin. Too wide, too cruel. He raises a hand. I brace for the blow that never comes. Instead, his coat flares. Inside, paralyzed children's toys hang from hooks. Dolls with glass eyes, block towers tipped over, teddy bears missing limbs. Each tagged with a name. Davis, Pierce, Harper, Emily's name scrawled on a glossy sticker across the chest of a broken ballerina doll. I choke back bile. He steps forward. The dim light off the toys casts grotesque shadows on the wall, dancing marionettes. I aim my pistol at his heart. The hammer clicks empty. My hand shakes. He glides closer. His voice is my own, low and soothing. You won't shoot your own blood. I yank the trigger. The empty chamber clicks. He stops, smiles, then disappears, leaving only echoes of laughter and rustling toy parts. I drop to my knees, panic ripping through me. Ruiz grabs a cell phone and calls dispatch. My head thumps. I'm drowning in guilt and rage. I beg for air. Outside, sirens blare. Rescue, SWAT, more cars. Emily's blanket flutters in the breeze. I stand, boots slick with sweat. I scoop up the broken ballerina doll, heart in my throat. The sun sets low, painting the Civic Center in blood red. I look at the horizon. Oil rigs stand silent, awaiting the dark. I hold the doll to my chest, whisper to its cracked face, I promise, I'll save them all. I shut off the engine and we stand in the dying red glare of the Civic Center's emergency lights. Emily's eyes, dark and wary, lock on mine. I force a reassuring nod, even as my insides twist. Behind us, the flood of deputies, medics, and SWAT teams fan out, their radios buzzing like cicadas in the still heat. I clutch the broken ballerina doll to my chest, its one remaining arm motionless, as though frozen mid-dance. Ruiz steps forward, her voice low. Captain wants a sit-down. Now. I look at Emily. She tugs my sleeve, small fingers brushing my badge. I kneel and press the doll into her hands. Keep her close, I murmur. She nods, whispering, Don't worry, Deputy Holt. Her calm steadies me more than any firefight. I rise and walk toward the command post, a makeshift tent under yellow floodlights. Outside, a tactical map is spread on a folding table. Rigs marked in red, rig sites linked by arrows. One last site near the Picus River bend glows ominously. Coordinates matching the Pierce Ranch. That's the final name on the list. My blood runs cold. Inside the tent, Captain Sledge doesn't look up as I enter. He's reviewing live drone footage on a tablet. I peer over his shoulder. Heat signatures flicker among derricks, but one rig near the river crackles. An intense hotspot. Sledge taps it. That's him, he says. Our team's moving in. Relief stabs me, but Sledge's eyes are hollow. Holt, this thing you're chasing, I don't think he's human. His words drop like stones in a well. I swallow. Then what is he? He shakes his head. Something born from fear itself. We drive out in an armored SUV. Emily is strapped into Ruiz's patrol car behind us, clutching the doll. I watch the rigs race past through the tinted window, countless silhouettes, each a potential death trap. At the ranch turnout, we disembark into the gathering twilight. The river's distant roar hums in the background. I lead the way, pistol drawn, Ruiz beside me. The ground crunches underfoot, dotted with tracks. Some ours, some larger, older. Ahead, the final rig stands alone against the broad sky. Its metal arms reach upward like twisted fingers. The hatch is closed. No scorch marks, no shattered glass. I glance at Sledge, who nods. I kick the hatch. It swings inward silently. No groan. I step through. The platform above is empty. The interior still smells of oil and dust, but there's something sweeter beneath it, an undercurrent of rot. I sweep my flashlight along the rail hooks. Empty. I step deeper, the grate thudding beneath my boots. The air shifts. It's cooler here, almost damp. I hear it first as a breath. Slow, deliberate. from somewhere above. I raise my light. At the ladder, a dark smear trails up the rungs. I climb, pulse thrumming. At the top, the hatch opens onto a narrow catwalk. I squint at the far side. The corpse of a man, Pierce, slumped against the rig's leg, one arm limp, the other clutching a tangle of wires. His face is gone, skin peeled back like pages. I gag. Then movement. A figure steps into the beam, same broad shoulders, hat tipped, coat stained black. But now he trembles, like wind through reeds. His form flickers. His voice, when he speaks, is a chorus of every call I ever answered. 10-8. 10-8. The words loop, distorting. My holster feels heavy. I draw my pistol. The figure raises its hand, and the barrel of my own gun presses against my temple from behind. I freeze. I turn. Nobody's there, but the barrel is ice cold. A whisper. I am your fear. The catwalk creaks. The rig's lights flicker. I spin the beam downward. Reflected in a pool of oil is my own face. Eyes wide, mouth open in terror. The whisper winds around me. You cannot save them. The corpse of Pierce slumps forward, sliding off the platform with a metallic clatter I hear even over pounding blood in my ears. I stumble back, crashing into the hatch. It latches shut. I wrench it open again, but the catwalk is empty. Outside, the lights of the SUV glow. I leap out, breath ragged, pistol trained on the rig. Nothing moves. I scan the ground. A single set of footprints leads away, crossing the riverbed toward the flooded plains, then fading into the rising dark. Ruiz's voice crackles in my headset. Holt, you okay? My vision swims. I kneel, pressing the rig's cold metal as though I could anchor myself. It's over, I whisper, but I know it's not. I vault into the SUV. Emily huddles in the back, doll in hand. She looks at me with solemn eyes and says, Daddy? My throat tightens. I swallow. Yeah, I rasp. I'm here. We drive away in silence. Behind us, the rig stands still against the void, its arms outstretched, waiting. The river reflects the dawn's blood-washed sky, and I realize I didn't chase a man. I chased the darkness inside me. Now, with the final name crossed off, there's nothing left but echoes, and the whisper that stays. I am your fear. My knuckles are white on the wheel, and in the mirror I see a shape in the back seat, taller than Emily, leaning forward. But when I look again, there's only me and a broken doll. The dawn breaks over the scorched earth, but the shadows linger, and I know they always will. The SUV's tires kick up dust as we tear away from the Pierce rig, engines and sirens swallowed by the desert's yawning hush. Emily slumps in her seat, clutching the broken ballerina doll with both hands. Her wide eyes track me through the rearview mirror. I keep my jaw locked, focusing on the cracked asphalt unfurling ahead. Each mile a heartbeat, and I'm running on nothing but adrenaline and dread. We cross the Pecos River Bridge in near silence. The water glints amber beneath the sunrise, deceptively calm. Downriver, rigs stand half-submerged in scrubland pools, spectral watchers. I flick the radio to life. All units, suspect appears to be dissolving into the landscape. Proceed with extreme caution. Static burbles out. The dispatcher's words claw at my mind. Dissolving into the landscape. He's never been a man. Ruiz glances back at Emily, then at me. I nod once. She guns the engine onto County Road 201, wheels spinning loose gravel. We leave the rigs behind, far behind, but their memory lingers in the rising heat haze, twisting the horizon like smoke. I press my palm against the worn dashboard. My skin still burns from the metal of that rig. I swallow, tasting copper and dust. I glance at Emily. You okay? She stares at the doll's cracked arm. "He wanted me," she whispers. My chest tightens. I want to tell her it's over, but truth tastes like ash. Instead, I touch her shoulder. "You're safe now." We pull into the Cahill Ranch Road turnout. The sun strikes hard, baking the earth. A chopper from DPS circles overhead, rotors chopping the air. The SUV rattles as we park. I step out, adrenaline finally draining, leaving my knees weak. I draw a deep breath of ozone and exhaust. Emily climbs out slowly, arm linked through mine. Ruiz takes the doll and places it gently in the center console. "We'll get you home safe," she tells Emily, voice firm. Emily nods, pressing her face against my leg. I wrap an arm around her shoulders. Captain Sledge strides up, hat in hand, face grim. "The labs confirmed Pierce's blood on that badge. Your badge from that rig." He pauses. "Blood that isn't human." My gut twists. I swallow. I know. Sledge glances toward the rigs shimmering at the horizon. The rigs are quiet now. No activity, no heat signatures, but reports from Wilbarger and Lamb suggest a lull only, a precursor. He meets my gaze. There's always another sunset. I nod. Each word cements in my chest. Then we'll be ready. Behind us, the chopper banks west, dispersing dust. Emily lifts her head, shading her eyes. "Can we go home, Daddy?" Her voice trembles. I straighten, brush dust from my jeans. "Yeah, let's go home." We climb back into the SUV. I slide into the driver's seat and catch my reflection in the rearview mirror. Hollow eyes, unshaven stubble, uniform stained with grime. I trace a finger over my badge. It gleams defiantly. I press the ignition. The engine roars, drowning out the cicada's dirge. As we pull onto the highway, I look once more at the rigs retreating into the morning haze. The shadow man they birthed may have vanished, but the darkness he carried remains, etched into every scarred piece of metal, every broken home, every child's tear-streaked face. I grip the wheel and whisper, "We finish the hunt, but the war goes on." Emily leans against me, breathing steadier. Ruiz drives in rear, vigil as ever. I guide us toward home, Lamb County Station, where a life once waiting for me now exists beyond these nightmares. I cannot promise the shadows won't follow, but I will stand between them and the innocent. The road rolls open like a promise and a warning. With Emily safe beside me and Ruiz at my back, I face the sunrise. The rigs fade, but their echoes endure. And as long as fear stalks the plains, I remain the watcher in the dark, the one who answers the call, till the last name is struck from the list and silence finally falls. I can still taste the dust on my tongue. It's that same grit that settles in your throat on a dry Texas night. The kind that reminds you the world is wider than your headlights and lonelier than your thoughts. My name is Wes Carter. I've worn this badge for 22 years. First as a deputy in Archer County, then 2 decades here in Lamb County, northwest Texas, where the wind pounds like a warning and the stars hang like silent witnesses. I've driven these roads so many times that I know every crack in the asphalt, every broken fence post, every hollowed-out pump at Brown's fuel stop. But there was one night when that familiarity turned into something else, something that felt less like duty and more like confession. Tonight, I'm speaking into a microphone, unfiltered, offering every shiver, every hesitation, every heartbeat, as though it were evidence laid bare before you. It was a Thursday. October, I think, mid-October, when the heat finally loosens its grip but the nights stay stubbornly warm. I was on my usual graveyard shift, 10 to 8 until dawn, radio set to Channel 2, Code 6. The call sign, Carter, had become almost automatic. Just me, my cruiser, and the hum of the engine punctuated by the occasional crackle of dispatch. I was checking in at the Wilbarger County line, calling 10-8 Carter here, when dispatch answered with that familiar static-laced voice. Copy, 278 westbound, keep it tight. I flipped the rig into gear and rolled toward Highway 287. The moon was a sliver, too thin to cast any real light, just enough to paint the outline of a moth drifting across my windshield. The CB hissed again, need backup west of 287. My left hand tightened on the wheel. Every deputy learns early to respect that phrase. It means something's not right. Could be a stranded motorist, could be a domestic in progress, but at that hour it usually meant trouble. 15 minutes later, I pulled up to Brown's fuel stop. Its neon sign flickered once, then buzzed into darkness. I parked on the cracked pavement, the cruiser's tires crunching gravel and aged asphalt. I left the engine idling, long enough for the dash lights to glow amber, showing me the battered gas pumps, the dusty shelves behind the glass doors, and the rusted chain-link fence that framed the perimeter. No one was coming here unless they were lost or looking for something other than gas. I stepped out, radio clipped to my uniform. The collar of my shirt itched with sweat. The heat this late in the year still clung to your clothes like a second skin. My boots crunched on gravel, and I could hear that distinct snap of limestone fragments shifting underfoot. I circled the pumps, peering into the shadows. The store's interior light was out, but a faint glow from the rear exit illuminated the broken glass. No footprints led to the door, just wind-blown dust and something newer. A set of narrow prints, a single path from the fence to the pumps, then fading into nothing. Dispatch, this is Carter. I'm on scene at Brown's. No one in sight. I'm checking the perimeter. My voice sounded distant, even to me. No response, just static. I tapped the microphone and tried again. Dispatch? Still nothing. The CB wasn't responding. In all my years, I'd never had total radio silence, especially not here, where the next precinct was 40 miles down a straight two-lane. I whispered to myself, "Great. Carter, you're on your own." I moved toward the fence, noticing how the slats were bent inward. Someone had squeezed through recently. I ran my glove along the cold metal, counting bent links, noting a strip of fresh mud on the bottom rail, like bare skin had pressed through. There were no clues beyond that. No footprints, no blood, no tire tracks. Just that half-finished trail and the open desert night. I holstered my weapon and clicked on my flashlight. The beam skated across the fence, revealing mesquite trees in the distance, their spines catching the light like jagged teeth. The wind kicked up, setting the wind chimes on the fence post to a slow, mournful ring. I froze. That sound, metal on metal, was a lullaby of unease. I've heard worse, but it never gets any less raw. A sudden snap of a twig made me whip the beam toward a rusted propane tank. Nothing moved. My pulse throbbed in my ears. I forced myself to step forward, each foot a declaration. "I'm here. Show yourself." I reached the propane tank. The beam caught something. A torn piece of denim snagged on a bolt. I knelt and tugged at it. It came free slowly, revealing the bluish threads of a shirt. Maybe a young man's. I could almost hear a voice in my head. "Deputy, we need help." But the emptiness answered nothing. I bagged the denim and stood, only to realize I'd drawn more than the wind's attention. Off to my left, past the shadow of the canopy, something gleamed under my light. A scratch of metal. I crouched and inspected. The edge of a sheriff's badge, face down in the dirt. Not mine, but the type issued 2 decades ago. Mine bears the current seal. Whoever dropped this had carried an old badge, That meant someone with history here. Either a former deputy or, God help me, someone impersonating one. I called out, "Show yourself." Lamb County Sheriff's Office. The emptiness mocked me. The chimes slowed, as if the wind itself tired of the game. 10 to 6, I said into the mic. I signaled imaginary backup, anticipating silence. But then the CB crackled. "Carter?" Relief and dread collided. I pressed the button. "Dispatch!" Then the voice. "Carter, shut it off. Get back to the cruiser." I hesitated. "Why?" "No questions now." I looked at the old badge on the ground. I looked at the darkened station behind me. I knew 3 things. 1, someone had been here. 2, they'd worn a badge to get this far. 3, my supervisors had just told me to back down. My hand hovered on the radio mic. Normally, I'd comply, chain of command, protocols, all that. But something in me snapped. All those years of chasing drunks off county roads, of scaring off trespassers, of making peace with the wind. That night, I realized I was chasing more than ghosts. I clicked off the radio and took a step back, then another. The wind roared in my ears. My flashlight trembled. My badge felt heavy against my chest. I took a breath and turned away, but not before whispering to the empty night, "All right. You win. For now." I walked back to the cruiser, heart hammering, mind racing with questions I couldn't answer. I climbed inside, locked the doors, and sat with the engine off. The wind chimes outside the broken window rattled, just out of sight. I reached for the old denim in my pocket, ran my thumb over the threads, and felt a memory I couldn't place. A child's laughter? A lost apprentice? I don't know. I cast one last look at the station through the windshield before switching the rig back on and driving away. My radio clicked on automatically then. 10:23, Carter. Home safe? 10:23, I answered, voice steady but low. Clear. As the station's lights receded in my rearview mirror, I realized I'd done something I'd never done before. Disobeyed an order, not openly but silently. I carried 2 tokens in my pocket, an old badge and a scrap of denim, evidence hidden from everyone I knew. That night I crossed a line, and once you cross it, there's no going back. I drove on, but I wasn't alone. The weight of what I'd found, and what I'd chosen to keep secret, settled over me like a second skin, thicker and colder than any night wind. And I understood then that some truths are drawn out by dust and darkness, revealed not in courtrooms but in the quietest confessions of a tired deputy's soul. When I finally pulled away from Brown's fuel stop, the road ahead was a ribbon of darkness. The cruiser's headlights carved 2 pale tracks through the night, each line a promise that somewhere beyond the next bend the world would end, and begin again. My heart was a lead weight in my chest, and every bump in the pavement felt like a reminder that I'd stepped off the straight path the last deputy should ever take. I switched off the CB, leaving it to its crackle of dead air. No more orders, no more copy, just me and the endless horizon. I pointed the car north toward Archer City. The open plains on either side were empty, save for the skeletal remains of mesquite trees and the occasional gutted barn. The moon was gone by then, swallowed by clouds that drifted low and heavy. Lightning flickered on the horizon, making the world beyond my grill points glow briefly cold white, as if some distant hunter was scanning for prey. I felt the weight of those eyes, distant and unseen, and I gritted my teeth against the urge to slam on the brakes. My mind replayed the old badge and the denim scrap over and over, like a scratched record. Who was the man who'd left them behind? A fired deputy? A homeless vet? A criminal using the emblem to lure someone into trust? I thought back to the stories. The farmer who swore his lights flickered at night, the hitchhiker who vanished on 287, only his guitar left behind. Everyone in town had their ghost story. Hell, I had a stack of them in my inbox. Pranks, hoaxes, old tragedies. But that night felt different. It was too real. The siren light on my dash pulsed red against the windshield as I punched the brake to a stop at the sign for Archer City. I killed the engine. The sudden silence was almost worse than any wind chime. I stepped out, the cabin light casting my shadow across the asphalt. I reached for my flashlight again, the cheap hobby store kind that rattled, but I left it in the console. Instead, I risked the dark. I walked toward the sign. Archer City. Population 182. Letters peeled, like the whole town was rotting beneath the sun. I traced my finger over the chipped metal, imagining the hands that had put the sign there decades ago. Something small moved in the distance. No more than a flicker. I froze. Breath caught. The CB crackled inside the cruiser, but no one spoke. That silence spoke volumes. I whispered to myself, "Carter, this is stupid. Go home." That's when I heard a low humming, like an electric motor buried under the earth. I snapped my head around, but the desert behind me was flat as a tombstone. The humming grew, vibrated through my boots, through my bones. My hand went to my sidearm, even though I knew it wouldn't help against whatever lurked in the dark. Then, as quick as the lightning flicker, the humming stopped. The world held its breath. I held mine longer. That's when the tinny scrape came, metal on metal, like the barrel of a revolver dragging across rock. It was close, too close. I whipped my flashlight out of the console, its beam jagged as it caught only air. I clicked it on, swinging the light toward the sign. There, in the dust at its base, the impression of a badge, my old badge, pressed into the gravel. I knelt and pressed my fingers into the impression. Fresh. Not more than minutes old. I scrambled back, stumbling over the cracked pavement. Fingers trembling, I fumbled for my phone and hit record on the voice memo. October 22nd, 3:15 a.m. Wes Carter, Lamb County. Something's out here, moving the old badge marking the sign. My voice was thick with something. Fear, awe, something I'd never felt on duty before. I stopped recording and tucked the phone away. I took a deep breath. This wasn't a prank. It wasn't a lone drifter or a drunk. It was deliberate and patient. I looked north again, toward the clouded horizon. A faint glow pulsed, just beyond the hills, deeper in the plains. Blue-white, like a cop car's light, but steadier. No rotation, no flash of amber. Surely not a patrol car. I raised my radio. "Dispatch, Carter. I'm at Archer City sign. I've got badge imprint in the gravel. There's a light south of Lamb County line, possible emergency, static, the same dead air." I hit the mic again. Silence. I watched the glow. It blinked once, then vanished. Whatever it was, it knew I was here. It was testing me. Waiting. I gathered the denim scrap from my coat pocket and held it up to the sign. The threads caught a sliver of streetlight from town. 2 miles that way, making the fabric look like a wound stitched into the night. I saw then what I've tried to ignore. The badge and the denim were calling me back. They'd left a trail, and now I couldn't step off it. No matter how many times I told myself to go home, something deeper compelled me forward. I climbed back into the cruiser and locked the doors. Engine turned over. The moment of warmth returned. I flicked the headlights on and off, testing the world's reaction. Nothing changed. So I drove on, toward the pulsing glow that faded behind me, but stayed on my mind like a question without an answer. The road out of Archer City was more like a ribbon of gravel than pavement, and the tires of my cruiser threw up shards of rock that skidded off into the darkness. With each mile marker I passed, My grip on the wheel tightened. My eyes darted from the dull glow of the dash to the black stretch ahead, looking for anything that didn't belong. The radio lay dead on the passenger seat, its silence more ominous than any static-laced warning. I thought about turning back, about calling it a night and convincing myself I'd imagined the badge impression and the light. But something in me refused. Not after everything I'd uncovered. I guided the car south toward Lamb County's border, following the faint blur of taillights from some distant vehicle. Probably a rancher heading home. I flicked my high beams off and on, a reflex born of thousands of nights patrolling these back roads. That flicker of light had drawn me in earlier. Maybe if I mimicked it, whoever, or whatever, was watching would show itself. But nothing happened. The plains remained silent as a tomb. I passed mile marker 37 and noticed fresh tire tracks branching off onto a side dirt path that led toward a cluster of oil derricks. The rigs stood like rusty sentinels against the horizon, skeletal arms reaching for a sky that was fast losing its stars. I pulled the cruiser onto the shoulder, tires crunching on the gravel, and climbed out into the humid night. The cicadas droned low in the scrub, and a distant pup's lonely howl echoed. I clicked on my flashlight and moved toward the tracks. They were recent. Black mud pressed into the cracked earth, punctuated by meaty tread marks. Whoever left them hadn't gone far. The path curved through the derricks, where pools of oil-slick water reflected the rig lights like uncanny mirrors. I followed the tracks deeper into the yawning field of metal. Each step was accompanied by the distant thrum of pumps working underground, a mechanical heartbeat that made the night feel alive. My boots sank into the soft dirt, and I noticed half-buried tokens of civilization. An empty cigarette pack, a torn police citation form, a single bootlace, black leather with frayed ends. It was as if someone had dropped breadcrumbs out here, daring me to find the next clue. I paused under one rig, its red warning lamp blinking in steady intervals. The air was thick with the stench of crude oil and something else, coppery, like fresh blood. My stomach knotted. I clenched my jaw and held my flashlight over a smear on the beam, reddish-brown streaks in the dust. I flicked closer. It was dark enough to mistake for dried oil at first glance, but under the beam's intensity, it revealed itself to be something else. I swallowed hard. "Jesus," I whispered. I snapped a photo with my phone, pinning it to tomorrow's investigation file. Then I remembered the denim scrap in my pocket. I pulled it out and unfolded it slowly. The rip was familiar now. A slash at the knee, threads swirling like veins. I wedged the fabric against a rig support and traced the pattern with my finger. It fit too cleanly to be coincidence. A low rumble grew behind me, and I spun around. My light caught on barrels stacked near another pump jack. They were marked propane, one of the letters scratched off. The barrels' lids were ajar, chains dragging on the ground. Then I heard it, a faint scraping, as if metal were being dragged through dirt. I lifted my flashlight high over my head, beam swinging across the field. But there was nothing, just the flicker of rig lights and the wind stirring the cattails at the edge of the clearing. Heart racing, I backed away, but something glinted in the beam's path. I crouched and found a tarnished badge clasp half buried in oil-stained gravel, the back plate of an old sheriff's star. I pried it loose, held it up, tarnished brass, engraved long ago with Lamb County. My own county, my own badge, or one exactly like it. I snapped another photo. Suddenly, the wind shifted, carrying a whisper that sounded like my name. Carter. It was soft, sibilant, and unmistakably human. I frantically spun in place, but the only movement was the rig arms oscillating in the distance. The whisper came again, only fainter, and then it stopped. In the silence, I thought I heard footsteps, light, deliberate, skirting the edge of the clearing. My pulse hammered. I forced myself to remain still. Flashlight beam clenched between my fingers, phone ready. One step, then another. I measured the distance in my head, about 20 paces, coming closer. The cicadas fell silent as if the world held its breath. My vision tunneled on a spot just beyond the nearest rig's support. I could almost make out a silhouette. Shoulders slightly hunched, like a man wearing a jacket too big for him. My mind scrambled for explanations. A trespasser, a homeless drifter, a prankster. None made sense. Why leave badges? Why templated tracks? This was no random trespass. The shape stepped into the beam. I saw a face, haggard, lined like a road map of every regret and fear. He raised his hand, revealing a pocket knife with the blade extended. The star-shaped brass gleamed on his chest. Another deputy's badge, old style. Something inside me recoiled with recognition, a fear that felt like looking into a cracked mirror. The man's eyes locked on mine. They were deep-set, hollowed, and filled with an expression I can only describe as pleading. "Don't run," he rasped. His voice was dry, like wind through a hollow bone. "You're part of this, Wes. You know why." I opened my mouth, but no words came. He took a shuddering breath as a distant siren, real or imagined, wailed, then faded. He clicked the knife closed and, in a movement too quick to track, dropped it at my feet. "Find them," he said, voice hollow. "Finish it." Then he turned and walked away, disappearing into the rig's red strobing light. I stood frozen, the knife at my feet, the badges heavy in my hands, and for a moment I felt
weightless, untethered from everything I knew. My head spun with questions. Who was he? What did he mean by finish it? And most urgently, where was I supposed to go next? My phone vibrated in my pocket. A text from dispatch. "Carter, status." I stared at the message, thumb hovering over the screen. I wanted to tell them everything. The denim, the badges, the whispering face. But I knew they wouldn't believe it. They'd call me delusional, order me to stand down, send me home. Yet I couldn't go back. Not now. Not after I'd crossed that line. I pocketed the phone, picked up the knife, and tucked it into my waistband. The sting of its metal against my hip reminded me that some vows are sealed in steel. I turned my back on the derricks and followed the path the man had taken, deeper into the dark, toward questions I couldn't yet name. Behind me, the pumps throbbed with mechanical life, indifferent to the human fear at their feet. I walked on, and somewhere in the distance, the wind chimes chimed a mocking refrain. The night air pressed in around me like a living thing, heavy and expectant. My footsteps in the oil-field dirt were the only sound beyond the distant drone of the pumps and the hollow creak of metal straining under unseen gears. Every breath smelled of crude and rust, and each inhale tasted like regret. I kept moving forward, deeper into the field, past the last derelict derrick, following nothing but instinct and the faint imprint of a path I couldn't fully see. Moonlight, when it broke through the heavy cloud cover, revealed a line of abandoned wellheads, each one a skeletal frame caged in rusted steel. Between them were trenches half filled with muddy water that caught my flashlight's beam, each puddle a distorted mirror of my own face. I paused at the third wellhead, where the ground was soft and churned. Fresh footprints, booted and wide, led into the trench and then back out, as though someone had tested the water before retreating. I knelt and pressed my gloved finger into one print. It was recent, minutes old at most, and still held the shape of a sole. I could see the pattern, a thick rubber sole, deep treads worn unevenly, like someone had limped on that foot for miles. My sidearm felt heavy at my hip. I clicked the safety off, then back on, a nervous ritual. The wind carried the echo of distant cattle, low, mournful moans that sounded like human voices crying out in slow despair. I shivered, the hairs on my neck standing to attention. Then I heard it, an echo of laughter, soft and hollow, like a child's giggle bouncing off distant hills. It wasn't natural in this place. My spine stiffened. I raised my flashlight and swept it across the rig frames. Between two beams I caught a glimpse of movement, a small figure darting behind a support column. I stiffened, recognizing the hurried shuffle of a child's pace. But there were no children out here. Only me, the dead rigs, and the ghosts in my mind. "Hey," I called, voice echoing strangely. "Show yourself." Silence. Then that giggle again, closer this time, tinged with something darker, a mocking note that made my gut churn. I advanced toward the sound, flashlight beam slicing through the gloom. My boots squelched in the muck of a trench. Each step felt like wading through memories. Old cases, missing persons, the heavy file on my desk of Jane Alvarez, a 10-year-old who vanished in Lamb County 18 years ago. At the trench's edge, my light fell on tiny footprints, bare, childlike, with an arch too pronounced for an adult. The prints led to a narrow pipe protruding from the ground. It was bent, twisted, as though pried open. From its hollow end came a faint drip, water or something darker. I knelt and peered inside. The beam reflected off something small and curved, a child's bracelet, tarnished silver with a single engraved initial, J. I swallowed hard. Jane Alvarez. Her case had gone cold. No body, no evidence, just gone. I reached out but stopped. The air behind me shifted. I turned slowly. There, at the edge of my light, stood a woman, a slim silhouette in a denim jacket, hair white blonde in the one glow. She held a tiny doll, its porcelain face cracked and one eye missing. The doll swayed in her hand, strings of dirt clinging to its dress. My heart locked. She stepped forward, each motion deliberate, silent as a tomb. When she spoke, her voice was wet, like a lullaby from a long-forgotten radio. "You found her, Wes." I swallowed, voice caught. "Who are you?" Her head tilted, eyes glinting in the beam. "I'm the reason you came out here." The ground trembled slightly. I crouched, hand on my weapon, but the metal belt felt foreign. "Jane Alvarez," I whispered, dread sliding down my spine. "You're—" She shook her head, and the doll bobbed. Number I was the one who watched. I was the one who left the clues. "You remember me, don't you? The deputy who helped." Her smile was sad, hollow. "I never left." I felt bile rise. "You're dead." Her laughter rippled through the air, a sound too light for horror, yet too cold for kindness. "Am I? Does it matter?" She dropped the doll, and it shattered on the ground, porcelain shards cutting the dirt. "I'm what's left when there's nothing left." Lightning flickered behind the rigs, illuminating her face fully for a heartbeat. Pale skin, dark eyes rimmed crimson, a bruise blooming on her cheek in the shape of a badge star. The night wind carried her whispered words. "Finish it." Then she was gone. I spun in a circle, flashlight frantically searching. Nothing but oil, mud, and echoing rig bones. I knelt to pick up the doll's broken head, the single glass eye rolling away. My hands trembled so badly I dropped it. The shattered porcelain cut my fingertips. Somewhere behind me, A pump jack groaned, then stopped. Silence swallowed it. The trench's muddy water stilled, and a heavy hush descended, an absence of sound that roared in my ears. I stood, bleeding slightly, and realized how far I'd wandered. The rigs seemed endless, a maze with no exit. My cruiser was a distant glow on the horizon, its headlights still on, unmoving. My radio crackled at last. "Carter? Carter, report!" I pressed the mic, but no words came. How could I explain this? A ghost child, a haunted deputy, a confession made flesh. I pressed the button again, voice hoarse. "Dispatch, I need assistance. Suspect, unarmed but dangerous. Location, oil field, 3 miles south of Archer City." Dispatch answered with code and questions, but I barely heard. My eyes tracked the empty field. I realized then that the ground itself was the suspect, a silent accomplice in burying truth beneath oil and dust. The ghostly figure, child or memory, had drawn me here to this moment. I pressed the radio off. The silence returned, absolute, suffocating. My flashlight flickered once, then went dark. I patted my pockets, phone, knife, denim scrap, old badge clasp, all the tokens of a nightmare I could never leave behind. I took a deep breath, tasted the oil and regret, and forced my legs to move, one foot in front of the other, toward the lights of my cruiser. Each step was an admission. I would not run. I would not hide. I would carry this story out into the world, even if no one believed what I saw. As I reached the edge of the trench, I paused. The wind began again, whistling through the rig arms like a choir of broken stars. I closed my eyes and listened. Beneath the wind's lament, I thought I heard the faintest sound of a child laughing, and then crying. I opened my eyes. The field was empty. The bracelet lay at my feet, its initial J glinting in the moonlight. I picked it up, slipped it into my pocket, and kept walking. The sky had begun to shift, pale gray edges bleeding into the horizon as the first hints of dawn touched the Texas plains. But beneath that faint light, the oil field remained a cavern of dread, the skeletal rigs casting elongated shadows that clung to me like specters. My boots hit the dusty track in a hollow rhythm, each step reminding me how far I'd gone, how deep I'd waded into this nightmare. The cruiser's headlights winked at me from the distance, both a beacon of safety and a reminder of the world I was leaving behind, a world of procedures and chain of command that no longer applied. I paused at the edge of the field, gathering my thoughts while the wind chased across the plains, stirring the oil-slick water into tiny waves that lapped the mud. Each ripple carried the memory of that child's laughter, that hollow lullaby. And I realized I hadn't truly processed what I'd seen. A ghost, or mind-breaking hallucination, beckoning me to finish something I had never understood from the start. I checked my pockets. The bracelet, cold and silver. The denim scrap, stiff with oil. The tarnished badge clasp, the cracked doll eye. The pocket knife snug at my hip. These tokens felt like bullets in my chest, proof that reality had been fractured into pieces that didn't fit. I turned toward my cruiser and started walking, the horizon growing lighter by the second. As I drew near, I remembered other cases, unsolved vanishings, old reports gathering dust in file cabinets. I'd filed them away, closed them with impersonal memos, family notified. No leads. Those files now seemed like lies, each one a brick in a wall that kept truth buried. I climbed inside the cab, slammed the door, and locked it with a decisive click. The latch resonated like a verdict. I sat in the driver's seat, helmet of light above my head, and exhaled slowly. I powered on the rig and let the engine purr. The cab warmed as I tuned the radio, twice, thrice, until dispatch barked back. "Carter, you okay?" I pressed the mic. "I'm fine. Code 4-." They paused. "You sound different. Just cold." I cut the radio. I didn't want to explain. Not now. I backed away from the field and onto the highway, headlights carving through the twilight.
My mind reeled with questions. Who was she? The ghost with Jane's face? Or was she Jane herself, twisted by years underground? And what did finish it truly mean? Resolve the case, find her body, or something darker, an act of atonement that I couldn't yet name? I reached the county line and radioed in. Carter leaving oil field, returning to HQ. "Copy that," dispatch replied. "What's your status?" "Routine." I worked the wheel into a turn. "I'll be 10 to 8 in 10. They didn't press further. Somehow, I shrugged away their concerns. I drove past flat fields tinged gold by dawn, farmhouses waking to rooster calls, and finally into the dim glow of Lamb County's lone strip of lights. I passed a lone jackrabbit, its ears erect, and almost swerved. Instead, I slowed, watching it bound into the brush. I envied its freedom. No badges, no secrets, no dead girl's laughter echoing in its ears. At the station, the parking lot lights buzzed on as deputies arrived for the morning shift. I switched off the cruiser, leaned back, and stared at the cracked windshield, searching for myself in the reflection. I saw a man older than he felt, the dark crescents under his eyes, the slump of his shoulders weighed by years he hadn't yet named. I grabbed the steering wheel and closed my eyes. 2 hours later, I reported to the lieutenant's office, denim scrap and bracelet in evidence bags. He looked at me, uncomprehending. "Found these where again?" "Oil field south of Archer City." He frowned, fingers tapping the desk. "No one called it in. You go on your own?" "Yeah," I maintained eye contact. Something was wrong. He leaned back, sighing. "You stretched your jurisdiction, man. I know. Next time, bring backup. Call me." I nodded. He expected me to file a report, follow the protocol, but protocols had failed before. I walked to my desk in the bullpen. Stacks of case files, fingerprint kits, boxes of confiscated guns. I dropped my coat on the hook and sat. My radio buzzed, an address for a bar fight. Routine, mundane, normal. I silenced it. For once, normal was the enemy. I opened my laptop and pulled up the cold case files. Jane Alvarez, missing since May 2007. Carlos Gutierrez, missing August 1999. 2 teenage boys who vanished near Wilbarger 5 years ago. I lined up their photos on the screen, smiling faces frozen in time, each tagged status open. I clicked print. Pages began to spurt from the printer like desperate pleas. I gathered them, heart pounding. I taped the printouts to the wall beside my desk, beneath the glow of a lone bulb. Together, they formed a gallery of ghosts. I stared at the wall, tracing each face with my gaze. Then I took the old badge from its bag, held it against my chest. The metal felt cold and heavy, a weight I'd chosen to bear. I placed it on the desk and tapped it with 2 fingers. A heartbeat. I imagined that woman's face, Jane or not, smiling that sad smile as she whispered, "Finish it." What did she mean? I ran my hand over her bracelet's initial, J. I flipped through the file labeled Alvarez Jane, looking at nondescript entries. Last seen, walking home, no witnesses, no leads. Underneath were notes about an anonymous tip, nothing credible. I scribbled a note on a sticky, "Call tipster." I placed it on the file. The room felt too small now, charged with energy. I opened another file. Crespin, Michael, missing August 99. Old photos showed two boys, Michael and Luis, riding bikes on dusty roads, laughing. Their file slumped beneath a photograph of the Alvarez girl. I pinned them side by side. The years didn't line up, but the patterns did. Isolated roadways, silent fields, unexplained footprints, and always the investigators closing the cases with a shrug. I looked up at the rig plan stuck beside the files, maps of mid-county oil wells. I drew a red circle around the one near mile marker 37. Then I marked another at Brown's fuel stop. A straight line linked them. I grabbed a ruler and extended it southwest toward Wilbarger County. A third point appeared. An old farmhouse long abandoned, rumored to be a hideout during Prohibition. I circled that too. 3 points. 3 scenes of horror I'd only begun to witness. A triangle across the plains of my jurisdiction. I stood and addressed the map aloud. This is where I start. I tapped each point. Then I traced a line between them, hands trembling. You wanted me to finish it. I will. My voice echoed off the filing cabinets. A voice crackled over the radio. Carter, you up? I snapped back. On duty. Backup's here for the bar fight. You want it? No. I clicked off the radio. I had a bigger fight to wage. I gathered my coat and evidence bags, slung them over my shoulder, and headed for the door. The bullpen deputies looked up as I passed. They nodded. They thought I was headed to work a routine call. Hell, I'd do that later. But first, there were ghosts to track, a triangle on, a map to investigate, and a promise I'd made to a child I'd never known. I walked into the dawn-lit hallway, badge gleaming, heart pounding with purpose. Outside, the sun burned through the clouds, scattering day across the plains. I blinked into the light but couldn't see the future. Only a direction. Forward. Somewhere, past those 3 points, past the barbed wire fences and cracked roads, lay the truth. I would find it, or I would become another shadow on this land, another badge dropped in the dust. My radio buzzed again. I ignored it. The world would have to wait. I stepped into the cold morning air, the weight of the badge in my hand, the bracelet heavy in my pocket, and I realized I was no longer just a deputy making rounds. I was a hunter of ghosts, a confessor of nightmares. And this was my confession, my oath. I walked toward my cruiser, the morning breeze carrying the scent of revelation and regret. And I understood something fundamental. The hunt had only just begun. The first rays of sunlight split the horizon, illuminating the path ahead. I took a steadying breath, put a hand on the cruiser's door, and whispered to the dawn, "Show me where you're hiding." The stretch of highway back to headquarters felt empty, like the world itself was holding its breath. I slid into the driver's seat of my cruiser, shutting the door with a thud that echoed in the cab. The morning light peeked over the horizon, washing the cracked dashboard in pale gold. I pushed in the clutch and rolled forward, headlights off, letting the cruiser's taillights fade into nothingness. All around me, Lamb County stretched wide and silent. Small towns slumbering behind chain-link fences and weathered barns. But I couldn't sleep, not after what I'd seen. My mind replayed the last message from dispatch. Backup's here for the bar fight, and I let it hang unanswered. That call belonged to the world of normal. I steered toward the station, but my thoughts were fixated on the triangle I'd drawn. Brown's fuel stop, the Archer City sign, the oil field near mile marker 37. 3 points of marked violence, each a sacrament in a ritual I was only beginning to understand. I swallowed hard, feeling the weight of that realization settle in my gut like a stone. I passed the old gas station on Highway 287, its battered sign blinking off in the dawn, and forced myself to keep going. I couldn't afford distraction, not now. I needed a plan. I needed fuel, coffee, and a way to triangulate the next location. I passed a diner with neon letters spelling "Open 24 hours" and considered pulling in. But the idea of a matronly waitress asking if I wanted a side of hash browns felt absurd. Instead, I kept driving, aiming for the station. When I arrived, the lot was already busy. Deputies swapped stories, laughed, grabbed cups of coffee from a battered Keurig in the break room. I resisted the urge to join them. I parked in the far corner, beneath a flickering lamp. I killed the engine and sat, letting the routine world swirl past my windshield. The morning shift arriving, the dispatchers behind tinted glass, the smell of fresh printer ink mingling with stale donuts. I opened the center console and laid out my tokens on the passenger seat. The bracelet, the scrap of denim, the badge backplate, the doll eye, and the knife. Each one was a fragment of a man's memory, a child's life, a deputy's secret. I traced them with my fingertip, feeling their edges, their scars. I closed my eyes and remembered the face of the woman in the oil field, the deputy with Jane's face, her whispered command, "Finish it." I breathed in slowly, tasting oil and dust on the exhale. A firm hand landed on my shoulder. I looked up to see Sergeant Ramirez, her brow furrowed. "Carter," she said quietly, "you okay?" I nodded. "I'm fine." She glanced at the tokens on the seat. "What are you doing?" I closed the console. "Personal business." Her eyes searched mine. "Just don't go chasing ghosts without telling someone." I forced a smile. "Got it." She nodded and walked away. I watched her go, feeling guilt and resolve dance beneath my ribs. I couldn't share this. No one would understand. And yet, I couldn't do it alone. I extinguished that thought and reached for the map pinned to my corkboard at home. A crudely drawn sketch linking those 3 points. I needed coordinates. I needed to know if there was a pattern. Property lines, historical railroad routes, pipelines, something common. I rummaged in the console for my notebook. Black moleskin with scuffed corners, then remembered I'd left it on my desk. I'd have to rely on memory. I fired up the cruiser and steered toward the old sheriff's office, a relic building repurposed as our substation after the new facility was built downtown. It sat at the heart of town, windows barred with iron, paint peeling. I parked outside, dashed in, and headed straight for the records room. The deputy on desk duty looked startled. "Carter, you need something?" "Records on 3 locations. I need access to property deeds, pipeline maps, anything you've got." He frowned. "What for?" I slid him a department ID, voice even. "Official request." He handed over a folder stamped restricted. I slipped it into my bag. No questions asked. Good on him. Back in the cruiser, I tore open the folder and scanned the contents. Topographical maps, well permits, pipeline easements. I spotted something. An old natural gas pipeline running from a pumping station near the fuel stop, arcing toward Archer City, then bending south through the oil field. The line matched my triangle almost exactly. A utility corridor that cut across county lines, over land managed by a private company outside regular patrol routes. No one would notice trespassers there except me. I leaned back, eyes closed. The pattern was too neat. Someone, or something, had used that pipeline right-of-way as a stage for these events. It was remote, accessible, off the books, perfect for hiding bodies, or worse. Another file listed a decommissioned maintenance shack near the midpoint of that line, abandoned 15 years ago. It might serve as a hideout, a staging area, a crypt. I set the folder aside and activated the cruiser's GPS. Coordinates for the shack: 34 degrees, 10 minutes, 22 seconds north, 100 degrees, 14 minutes, 5 seconds west. I punched them in. The screen lit up with a path that crossed private land and county roads. Estimated arrival, 25 minutes. I sighed and reached for the ignition. The world outside was waking. School buses, delivery trucks, morning joggers, normal life. It felt cruel to be chasing ghosts while the rest of the world moved on. But I had a promise to keep. I snapped my belt tight and closed my eyes for a moment, whispering into the empty cab, "I'm coming." I pulled out onto the highway, the cruiser's engine rising to its familiar hum. As I drove, the evidence in my bag rumbled. A chorus of metal and cloth and glass. Each item was a chapter in a story I was still deciphering. The pipeline line pulsed on my screen, a lifeline leading me back into darkness. I thought of the whispers in the oil field, the child's laughter under the wing of an oil pump, the apparition of a woman in denim. They weren't hallucinations, they were guides. They'd laid out the path. And I, the weary deputy turned ghost hunter, would follow it, no matter where it led. Because finish it wasn't just a command, it was a covenant. With every mile, the cab grew colder. The morning chill seeped through the vents. I reached down and felt the metal of the old badge clasp in my pocket, cold against my palm. I rubbed it, steeling myself. Sunlight would soon split the sky, but I was heading back into night. I tuned the CB to channel 10, our frequency for road closures, and announced my location. No response. Then I keyed Mike. Carter to dispatch, ETA 25 minutes at South Pipeline Shack. Silence, then a sleepy reply. Copy that. I switched off the radio. I drove on, listening to the cruiser's tires grind the pavement, my own breath ragged in my chest. The pipeline route stretched ahead, and with it the promise of closure, or the risk of everything shattering. I punched the accelerator. The chase was on. The shack emerged out of the scrub brush like a carcass. Its corrugated metal walls rusted through in places, boards warped and buckling. I cut the engine and killed the headlights, letting the cruiser drift into silence. The GPS read, "You have arrived," but arrival felt wrong, like stepping into the maw of something waiting. I grabbed my flashlight, clipped my holster, and slung the evidence bag over my shoulder. The morning chill had slipped away, leaving the air still and heavy, pregnant with the promise of revelation. I approached the shack's door, noting the faded maintenance company logo scribbled out long ago. The latch was rusted, but with a few firm wrenching motions, it gave way with a screech. I shoveled my flashlight beam inside. Dust motes floated in golden shafts of sunlight that cut through broken windows. Inside, tools lay scattered. Wrenches, oil drums, coil of frayed cable. A workbench against the far wall held dusty ledgers and grease-stained maps of the pipeline. I rifled through the papers, heart pounding, searching for names, dates, anything that tied these grounds to the faces on my wall at the station. Under a pile of yellowed envelopes, I found a journal, spiral-bound, missing its cover. The pages were water-stained but legible. Written in cramped script were dates and initials. June 15th, 2003, J.A. secured. No movement. August 21st, 2005, M.C. extraction attempted. My blood ran cold. J.A. Jane Alvarez. M.C. Michael Crespin. Someone had cataloged victims here. Each entry was clinical, detached, like inventory instead of children. I flipped to the end. October 28th, 2024. W.C. now. Next phase. W.C. my initials. Today's date. My breath caught in my throat. The shack's silence closed in, as if the walls themselves were listening. My flashlight trembled in my hand. I closed the journal, heart hammering. Someone had known I'd come. Someone had left instructions. I slid the notebook into my coat pocket and shoved the rest of the pages back onto the bench. The air shifted, too quick to be wind. I spun, light sweeping across peeling wallpaper and a dusty barrel in the corner. From its darkness came a soft thud, like something dropped inside. I inched forward, every muscle coiled. At the barrel's mouth lay the doll's cracked torso, missing both arms. Its porcelain surface was splattered with something dark that gleamed wet in the light. I knelt, stomach knotting. The doll's face, eyes staring up, reminded me of Jane's haunted gaze. Beside it lay a folded scrap of paper, a child's drawing of a star-shaped badge, identical to mine, hovering above a crude stick figure. Underneath, in a child's scrawl, "He will come." I exhaled, voice tight. "I'm here." A sudden gust rattled the door. I whipped the beam that direction. The entrance was empty, but the shadows beyond flickered. I thought I heard the rasp of cloth, the soft shuffle of feet. My hand slid to the knife at my waist. I edged backward, tripping over a tool chest and crashing to the ground. The freshness of fear rose in my throat. I scrambled to my feet and shone the light at the open door. In the threshold stood the deputy woman, Jane's killer, or perhaps Jane herself. Her denim jacket threadbare, hair matted. Her eyes, black wells of grief and rage, fixed on me. "You found my home," she whispered. "You brought the others." She gestured at my pockets, all of them. She stepped inside, the floorboards groaning under her weight. "They waited." Her voice cracked like a dry branch. "They needed you." I swallowed and slid my hand from the knife to the journal. "Why me?" She laughed, a sound without joy. "Because you listened. You didn't stop when they told you to go home. You're part of this now." She raised a hand. "Finish it." The walls moaned as if responding, and I felt the ground tilt beneath me. The dolls, the badges, the denim, all my evidence, hung heavy in the air. I pressed the journal to my chest. "I will." Her face softened, sorrow seeping in. "It's never enough," she said, "but you have to try." She reached out, her fingers brushing my arm, cold as death. Then she faded, dissolving into motes of dust that glittered in the beam before dispersing into nothing. The shack shuddered, the windows rattling as though exhaling. I backed out, journal clutched, flashlight bobbing. Outside, the sun had overtaken the sky, burning away shadows. The world felt raw, exposed, like a wound left open. I closed the door and pressed a heel against the latch. It held, locking itself. I breathed hard, chest tight. I walked back to the cruiser, the journal thumping against my ribs. As I climbed in, I glanced at the pipeline corridor behind me. 3 points merged into a line leading away. Behind those points lay secrets I'd only begun to uncover. I placed the journal on the passenger seat and rubbed my thumb over my badge. The metal felt warm, charged. I started the engine. The radio crackled to life. "Carter, you there?" I opened my mouth, but no words came. Instead, I shut it off. I didn't need backup. I needed time. Time to gather evidence, to honor those ghosts, to finish what I started. I shifted into drive and pulled onto the highway, eyes on the road ahead. The wind rushed past, carrying the memory of whispers and laughter, pulling me forward. I drove toward Archer City, toward Lamb County, toward every dark stretch I'd left behind. And as the sun rose higher, I understood the hunt would never end. Every badge, every scrap of denim, every ghost would continue to call my name, demanding closure I could never fully give. But I would follow them through every mile of dark highway, because some confessions are never complete. They echo in the wind, in rusted shacks, in the beating of your heart. And as long as I breathe, so long as this badge feels heavy against my chest, I will keep the promise I made in oil and dust. The world woke around me, unaware. But I knew the truth. The darkness doesn't vanish with daylight. It waits, and I will be there, listening. I shut off the patrol lights first. Habit, protocol, reflex, and the world beyond the windshield went black except for the stars. Not that I was looking for constellations. In Van Horn County, you learn quick that the sky is an empty vault, and the things that move beneath it are what you must watch. I clipped my radio mic back into place, the little click echoing in my skull, and reached for the door handle. Gravel crunched under my boots. The breeze carried the rattle of a distant wind chime hanging off a derrick somewhere, and I swear I could hear a collar jingling. Maybe a dog, maybe something else. My stomach clenched, and I felt the old adrenaline knot in my chest. The same knot I'd carried home every night for 20 years. I'd left my ex-wife's final letter in the glove box months ago. "You'll do fine without me," it said. "You don't need me at 2 a.m. down some gravel road talking to ghosts." She was right. I don't need anybody. Still, I drove out here to what they call Oil Field Road, because it's never just another shift. It's a confession booth, and I, the deputy, am the fool who pulls into the dark, expecting something to be normal. The sign read County Road 287. The paint was peeling, but the shape of Texas's silhouette was still clear. I leaned back against the door, my sidearm heavy at my hip. My flashlight opened up a cone of yellow into the darkness, illuminating the rusted pump jacks in their frozen ballet. One leaned sideways, its counterweight dangling like an arm fallen off. Rust flakes glinted where the moonlight struck. I took a breath, tasted the grit. "Dispatch, this is 10-8 on CR 287, I said into the mic in a low voice, and waited. No answer for a full 30 seconds. I should have expected it. Who's awake at this hour, aside from me? I took a step forward. The gravel shifted underfoot. The engine sputtered in my brain. I hated this part, the first step into whatever waited. The last thing I needed was some kid who'd hold up out here for cheap thrills, but I knew better than to assume. The cattle rustlers had gone quiet months ago. Backcountry drifters, trailers, substance chasers. Yeah, they were around, but they knew even less about who I was than I knew about them. They'd run if they saw me. This wasn't a bait and switch, it was just me, waiting. Under one of the pump jacks, I saw tire tracks, fresh, deep, cut into the asphalt and dirt. Wide wheelbase, maybe a big rig. But it wasn't the truck that bothered me, it was the absence of its lights, its engine noise. The tracks ended maybe 20 feet from the jack, then stopped. I raised my flashlight and swept the beam. The circle of light revealed nothing but a broken chain-link fence, the field beyond barren and flat, stretching until it rose into scrubland ridges on the horizon. All I could hear was my breathing, too loud, and the distant hum of a generator I couldn't locate. I tapped the mic again. Dispatch, 10 to 20 on those tracks, 28-7. Looks like a tractor trailer, but dark. Pause. No response. Typical. Nobody cares. They send me out to stare at oil fields, and I stare until I find something. But what? The wind chime sounded again, closer. It wasn't metal on metal, it was wood, clacking like knuckles. I froze. The beam swung, caught a shape behind me, a hitching post maybe, or a dead tree limb. My flashlight flickered. I tapped the head of it to adjust the batteries. I've never been one for theatrics, but you can't plan for half-light and shadows twitching at the edge of your vision. If I let my guard drop, I might see something moving where nothing should be. My chest ached, not from running, but from pulling at memories I'd tucked away. Lamb County, years back. That lost girl. I still hear her voice. Just a whisper, but clear as this night. Sir? Sir? I found her doll in the dirt, no kid in sight. She never came home. I think about her more out here than I ever did back at the station. I put that memory in my coat pocket next to the locket of my daughter's last birthday picture. Her face is streaked with cake frosting, smiling, oblivious to a broken family in the making. It was then I heard the twang, like a gun hammer clicking into place. Not a full round, just a single click. I turned so fast the flashlight wobbled off my shoulder, illuminating the base of the pump jack as if it were an altar. I glanced up. The metal arm arched overhead like a giant's arm, the counterweight looming. The wind stirred, and the clinking came again, now synchronized with each gust, an uneven heartbeat. My hand twitched toward my weapon. On the ground, I saw footprints around the jack, heavy boots, pointed in different directions but all circling this one spot. "What are you doing?" I whispered. It was rhetorical, but the mic cracked in affirmation. At least the radio could spy for me, even if nobody was listening. My boot touched something slimy on the ground, a scrap of cloth heavy with oil. I bent, picked it up. It was a piece of uniform, tan fabric, stitched with thread that caught the moonlight. Sheriff's deputy? State trooper? I couldn't tell in the dim, but I recognized it. The same cut I'd seen on my own shoulder, the same shape. I swallowed hard, the taste of metal in my mouth. A gust rattled the derrick, the whole structure vibrating. My hair bristled on my neck. A stray beam of moonlight broke through clouds, lighting the tracks again. They led toward an old service road that disappeared into the scrub. I could follow, or wait for backup that might never come. I closed my eyes, made a decision. I pulled the patch off and stuffed it in my pocket. If somebody out here was impersonating law enforcement, they were playing a damn dangerous game, and it was my game to end. I stepped off the gravel and onto the road, the dirt swallowing my boots silently. I left the pump jacks behind. The chime went quiet. My flashlight skittered over broken Providence road markers, rotted fence posts, and then settled on the fuselage of an abandoned semi. Its doors ajar, shadows pooling within. The air smelled of creosote and old diesel. My adrenaline drained into dread. Every step closer felt heavier, like walking into someone's memory I wasn't supposed to see. My hand hovered near my holster, my heart hammered. I leaned forward and called in low, "This is Deputy Granger. If there's anyone in there, step out with your hands up." My voice sounded alien, tinny in the vast night. Silence, then a soft shuffle, like leather on metal. The beam pierced the darkness inside the trailer. I saw a silhouette hunched by the back wall. Shoulders slumped, not moving, not breathing fast. 10-4, I'm ordering you. I paused, because I wasn't ordering anything. Not anymore. I remembered another night in Pecos County, chasing a runoff driver into the desert. The driver ran until his lungs gave out, then begged me not to look into the trunk. I did. A body wrapped in a blanket, eyes wide open in a silent scream. That man died before I could read his name tag. I swear I've carried his scream under my ribcage ever since. The figure shifted. Slow. Then a hand emerged, pale against the blackness, lifting a mask that looked like my face. My own face, staring back at me, carved from linen or silicone. No eyes behind it, just hollows. My breath caught. I swallowed. The mic slipped in my grip. The mask fell with a thud, hollow, mocking. And I realized, standing there in the Texas night, that I was staring at myself. A shell. A confession I'd never voiced until now. The noise came then. a dry click, like the hammer of a gun cocking. And I knew the night wasn't done with me. The first section of my truth ended there, where the mask lay at my feet, and I took one step forward. The moment my boot connected with the edge of that mask, something inside me twisted. The same twist I'd felt every time I'd crossed that line between protector and predator. The cold Texas wind squeezed through my uniform, carrying the scent of shattered dreams and old oil. I hesitated, finger poised on the trigger, but not quite pulling. Because this wasn't about shooting, it was about seeing. I took another step forward, and the world contracted to that trailer's dark mouth. The cracked metal door rattled against its frame. The silhouette inside didn't move. I thrust the beam deeper, searching for any sign of life. The mask lay just beyond my toe, its hollow eyes staring back at me, mocking me. It felt like a reckoning. "Dispatch, this is Deputy Granger," I said, voice steady even though my heart galloped. "Possible impersonator down. Code 6, request immediate backup. Location remains 287 at Oilfield Road." Static hissed for a heartbeat. No answer. As if there were no dispatch, no station, no backup. Just me. I sucked in a breath and edged the beam to the figure slumped against the far wall. The hairs on my neck bristled as I recognized the shape of my uniform draped over collapsed shoulders. The same cut, the same patches, but shredded, stained. I swallowed the lump in my throat. I pressed my boot against the trailer's threshold and ducked my head inside. The air was stale, thick with the stink of diesel and sweat. My light cut through the gloom, revealing a narrow space crammed with empty cardboard boxes, once full of wire and valves, and a broken toolbox tossed to one side. The figure didn't flinch. I approached slowly, every footstep measured. My hand flexed near the holster, but I kept it low. I needed answers, not bodies. I knelt down. The figure remained still. The air rose and fell shallowly against tattered canvas. I flipped the light onto its face. The features were gaunt, hollow-cheeked, but unmistakably mine. Skin pulled tight over cheekbones, lips cracked and drawn back in a silent snarl. The eyes, they were glass. Glass replicas set into a face that looked like me, but made of some rubberized compound. It wasn't a man, it was a mannequin, a macabre stand-in for me. The craftsmanship was too good, every detail replicating my 5 lines of worry across the forehead. The small scar above my left eyebrow from a bar fight 10 years ago. I looked closer at the arm, its jacket sleeve ripped, revealing a bicep circled by a faded tattoo. Van Horn Vigilante, in spidery letters. I'd never seen that ink before on anyone. My breath hitched. The air seemed to thicken. I ran my fingers over the plastic cheek, and the head flopped to the side, rolling onto my boot. I tapped it lightly. It made a dull thud. I stood and swept the beam around, scanning the corners. Under a pile of old tarp, I saw movement, a flicker of cloth dragging across the floor. I swung, the flashlight, and out from under the canvas crawled a man, face pressed to the ground, eyes wide with raw fear. The beam caught a bead of sweat on his forehead, tracing down into his beard. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. His uniform, though, was patched together crudely, fabric mismatched, patches sewn on askew. He looked up at me, and I recognized the shape of desperation in his expression. The hollow mannequin was his work, a twisted mirror to my own face. He opened his mouth, but no words came, only a raspy gasping that scraped in the tin of that trailer. I crouched, searching his face. "Who are you?" I asked quietly. Not yelling. This wasn't a screaming match. He swallowed, eyes flicking over my duty belt, my badge. His gaze settled on my nameplate. Granger, He shifted, trying to push himself up, but the canvas weighed him down. I thought you'd understand," he croaked, voice strangled. "I thought you'd know." He tried again, a wheeze, then coughed. His uniform sleeve slid back, revealing a forearm crisscrossed with scars. Old knife wounds, faded but gruesome. A jagged line that trailed down near his wrist. "Understand what?" I asked, though a whisper of realized horror slid through me. The man's eyes darted to the mask at my feet. "Why you do it?" His words came out in staccato breaths. "Do what?" I pressed, every instinct screaming at me to back away, to call an audible alert on the radio. But curiosity and a sick sense of responsibility held me locked in place. He looked up, pain flaring in his eyes. "All of this." He gestured broadly with a trembling hand, encompassing the mask, the trailer, the oil pumps beyond the door. His chest rose and fell, like a piston trying to ignite but flooding instead. "I made it. I made it so you'd see. You'd know what it feels like." My head spun. I'd seen figments of my own pain before, hallucinations after long shifts, those night terrors when I woke gasping. But this man had built a totem of my face out of rubber, rigged it in the landscape of my patrol. He wanted me to see myself as monster. "How long have you been out here?" I asked, voice low. He swallowed and reached toward a pocket. I leaned forward, hand hovering over his shoulder, ready to pull him away or pin him down. He withdrew a small recorder, one of those old microcassette players. He pressed play. A scratchy voice filled the trailer. January 15th, 2005. Dispatch called it a routine missing persons check. Deputy Ricardo Granger, open fields near Lamb County. I found the girl's doll, but no girl. You'd think the doll's toy music box would still work, but the little wind-up had lost its spring. Like her, like me. My blood ran cold. That was the night the girl vanished. Sarah Martinez, 9 years old. I was the one who had stumbled on that plastic doll in the grass as the storm rolled in. I never told anyone it was. I never told dispatch that I'd heard a soft whimper behind me, but turned to see only tall grass waving. I filled out the report. No signs of foul play, nothing to indicate the girl, case closed. But that night the grass whispered her name, Sarah, Sarah. He continued. July 3rd, 2010. Patrol called me to Pecos County. Overturned tanker on Highway 190. I found 2 bodies in the trailer. Cousins, traveling to a family reunion. Their eyes froze wide like dinner guests gone still. I rubbed out my flashlight's beam to see better, but I couldn't make out their names. They stared at me through the night. My fists clenched at my sides. My knuckles went white. I remembered that case. The cattle tanker. Half my patrol before my lunch break. I'd closed my eyes, smelled the diesel, and promised I'd never let myself see anything so broken again. But I still had nightmares of their faces, mouths open in silent screams. The tape clicked on, and the next entry played. November 29th, 2014. Ambush in Wilbarger County. Roadblock on FM 2373. I radioed backup but knew no one would make it in time. That man with the shotgun took aim at me. He didn't miss. Took me down, bled me out in the dirt, left me dying under that merciless sky, and I watched him sculpt my corpse into a tableau, like it was art. My vision blurred. I'd never told anyone about that ambush, not even my partner. I'd kept it a secret because I thought if I said it, I'd admit that I was weak, that I'd bled out in the dirt. The tape ended in static. Silence swelled inside the trailer, pressing me forward. This man, this hollow-eyed figure, had lived my nightmares, had stitched together a shrine of my failures and doused it in oil. He thought I'd understand, but I didn't, not yet. I closed my eyes and let my head hang. Guilt coiled around me. With every length of tape, there was another memory I'd shoved into the shadows. The missing girl, the bodies in the tanker, the shotgun blast, all buried beneath the uniform I wore every night, as if it could shield me from my own mistakes. I dropped to one knee and reached out, not for the gun, but for the recorder. I pressed stop, then play again. There was nothing, just static. Then, beneath the hiss, a whisper. My voice, or something that sounded like me, raspy and hollow. You found me. A chill crawled up my spine, so fierce I thought my skin might split. My own voice, distorted, accusing. The whisper turned into a low chant, repeating one phrase over and over. Find me. Find me. Find me. The trailer groaned as if in response, the metal frame contracting in the cold night air. My breath caught in my throat. I stared at the man before me, alive, breathing, broken. He raised his eyes to mine, and that same chant came out of his lips, deliberate. Find me. Find me. I realized then that I was already lost. Because to find him, this twisted reflection of my worst nights, I'd have to face every memory I'd buried. And that meant opening every case file, revisiting every scene, reminding myself why I became a cop and why I stayed until I was hollowed out. I tucked the recorder into my pocket and rose slowly. I left the mannequin's mask on the trailer floor. I stepped back into the doorway and looked out at the oil pumps, standing like sentinels in the desert. The night wind rattled the chime again, wood on wood, the knuckle tap calling me. 10 to 8, I whispered to the empty air, I copy you. I closed the trailer door behind me, and the world went dark once more. The only sound was the distant hum of that generator, the chime's heartbeat, and the soft scrape of my boots against the dirt. I didn't need backup, I needed answers. And to get them, I'd have to follow those tire tracks deeper into the scrub, into the county lines I'd patrolled for decades, into my own shattered past. One step, then another. And with each footfall, I felt the memory coil unravel, threatening to drag me into the hull of my own confession. But I kept going, because I knew that if I stopped, this man, this imitation of me, would win. He'd become permanent, and I'd be left in that empty mask. So I walked on, blades of mesquite scratching my legs through my uniform, and the week-old moon casting my own shadow long across the road. The tape's chant echoed inside my mind. Find me. I flicked my flashlight off again and let the darkness swallow me. The oil field pumps whispered behind me, and I felt a presence move in the shadows. Not the man. I'd left him behind, but something real, something alive. I reached for my radio one more time, thumb hovering. I could call it in, make it legal. But I knew there was no station that would understand this. No judge who'd convict him. Only me, the night, and the roads where I'd sworn to protect. My finger pulled the mic and I spoke into the void. Dispatch, this is Deputy Granger. Make it 10-8 en route to Wilbarger County. And please send someone who can see what I see. Silence answered. Then the chime rang once more, a single, hollow knock. I stepped forward into it, into the night, into my confession unfolding. And I understood in that instant that finding him meant losing myself. But I had no choice, because I was the only one who could stop this. And if I failed, the mask would live on. The chant would never end, and the shadows would claim another piece of the deputy I used to be. I drove away then, leaving the field and the trailer in my head's rear view, but the road ahead was endless, black and full of whispers. The horizon ahead was a ribbon of black, unbroken except for the silver glint of a county road sign. Wilbarger County Line. I eased the cruiser through the metal posts and onto the asphalt, engine idling so softly it might have been my own breath. I glanced in the rearview mirror. No lights, no sign of the trailer or the man I'd left behind. Just open land that yawned into the night. My pulse hammered. Each beat a reminder that I was alive, that I had work to do. I flicked the radio to a new channel, frequency for Wilbarger Dispatch, but got only silence. I keyed the mic. Wilbarger County, this is Van Horn Deputy Granger, crossing your line en route to a possible suspect. Over. I waited long enough to hear my own voice echo, then clicked off. No answer. That was fine. No one knew I'd be here. No one knew I was chasing a ghost I'd created myself. I shifted in my seat, eyes aiming the beam toward the distant dark. My shoulders ached from the weight of everything I'd carried inside me all these years. Cases closed cold, bodies I couldn't save, whispers I still heard in empty halls. I thought of my daughter's birthday locket in my glove box, her melted candle wax still clinging to cracked leather. I thought of the missing girl's doll, and how I'd whispered into the wind until my voice cracked. I thought of that tanker's stench and the dead cousin's hollow eyes, and I thought of the shotgun blast that carved me open. I flicked the beam out the window, lighting roadside scrub that scratched at paint and glass. The wind chime was gone, but I could hear clicking in my skull. I needed to keep moving. A dead end meant nothing if you circled back, and I'd been circling these memories for decades. I shifted into drive and rolled ahead, coaxing more speed. The road bent and straightened, then curved under a bridge that marked the Pecos River crossing. I remembered countless nights fishing the current for drifting bodies, hoping for closure that never came. I slowed, peering into the black void under the bridge. No headlights, no movement, just the river's whisper in the darkness. I stared for a long moment, thinking about how water carried secrets, how it washed them out of sight yet never fully erased them. I punched the steering wheel lightly, more to feel the leather than to vent. I needed a target. I needed a starting point. I reached into the console and pulled out a folded map of the counties: Van Horn, Lamb, Pecos, Wilbarger. I laid it on the passenger seat and flicked on the dome light, casting a harsh glow across the lines. I traced a finger along the route. Oilfield Road to 287 to 190 to the river crossing, and off into the scrubland beyond. There, at the intersection of FM 2373 and a cattle trail, was where the ambush had happened. That was the next marker. That's where I'd go. I tucked the map back and flicked off the light. The world went black again, but my mind shone bright with purpose. I flicked the beam ahead, guiding the cruiser down the road. I kept my hand near the wheel, far from the mic. Every second I wasted speaking into empty radio channels was a second wasted chasing him. The clock on the dash flickered. 2:47, near 3 in the morning. Even the birds were asleep. I eased the cruiser onto the dirt shoulder at the FM 2373 junction. The soil was looser here, sand mixed with cloven rock. I killed the engine, and all at once, the night closed in. I lit my flashlight and stepped out, boots hitting soft earth that bounced underfoot. I swept the beam along the junction sign. White letters, time-peeled, but legible. No border, no fences. Just the road and a path beaten by cattle. I followed the trail north, deeper into unknown fields. Each step raised a small puff of dust that hung in the beam before vanishing. No footprints, no tire tracks, but I could feel him, past him, somewhere. The scent of diesel had faded. Now it was sagebrush and mesquite with a trace of alcohol and sweat. I slowed. Spirit chaser. It was like chasing a ghost, but I wanted flesh and bone to show up. I flicked the beam to my right and spotted an overturned water trough, rusted and full of rainwater. A scrap of denim caught on the lip. I reached out and pulled it free. Dark blue, frayed. Maybe from someone crawling. I tucked it into my coat pocket. It would keep the trail alive, a breadcrumb to his presence. Ahead, the path opened onto a clearing. I paused at its edge. In the moonlight, I saw a cluster of trailer frames without the walls, lining the perimeter. They formed a semicircle, like seating around a stage. The ground at the center was churned, dirt and gravel torn up. I flicked on the storm lantern I kept in the cruiser's back seat, a beaten brass cylinder with a glass globe. I lit it, and the clearing glowed with an orange halo. My breath caught. There, at the center, was a circle of objects, an old duffel bag, 3 wooden chairs, a shattered amber bottle, and a single blood-red rose laid on the dirt like an offering. I approached, heart pounding. The lantern's glow caught the rose's petals, making them gleam like fresh paint. Yet the stem was brittle, dried. The petals curled at the edges, as though burned. I knelt and touched the duffel bag. It was heavy and damp. I opened it slowly, bracing for the worst. Inside were 3 items: a child's toy sheriff badge, a broken walkie-talkie tuned to my frequency, and a spiral-bound notebook with a cracked leather cover. I took out the badge. It was an exact copy of mine, except where mine had some filth and wear. This one looked newer, a pale imitation. I opened the notebook. Inside, pages were scribbled with notes, sketches, and dates. My dates: July 27th, 2005, January 12th, 2010, November 29th, 2010, 2014, February 8th, 2018. Each matched dates of incidents: the missing girl, the tanker bodies, the ambush, and another case I'd buried, unreported. I flipped to the last entry. April 23rd, 2025, Van Horn County, Oilfield Road. Deputy Ricardo Granger discovers mask. I watch him. He takes the bait. Next step, confession. Next, rebirth. Find me. My lungs constricted. The final line scrawled across the page: then we meet. I closed the notebook, heart thundering. He'd marked his progress like a hunter tallying kills. He'd studied my files, my fears, my past, every wound I'd tried to hide. This was personal, not some random spree. He wanted me to tear into myself, to bleed everything out. I stood and faced the semicircle of frames. The shadows curved around me, waiting. I lifted the lantern higher. In the glow, the frames took on more shape. Forks where walls once were, beams where roofs had collapsed. It was a cathedral of emptiness, worship for the lost. And I was the main exhibit. I heard a crack behind me. I spun the beam and saw footprints, one set leading out of the clearing to the west, disappearing under low mesquite. I exhaled and set down the lantern, clicking it off. The night was mine again. Dark, deafening, tangible. I moved to follow the tracks, but before I took a step, I heard a voice behind me. Quiet but unmistakable. "You're coming." I froze. The air snapped cold. The voice was male, close, carried on the wind but distinct. Not the man in the trailer. I recognized the tone. Calm, almost gentle, but with something feral behind it. I waited. Silence. Then footsteps, soft, deliberate, moving away from me, back toward the road. I dove for the notebook in my pocket, unholstered my sidearm, and clicked on the flashlight. I chased the sound, beam leading me through the brush. The footsteps stopped at the edge of a shallow ravine. I paused at the lip and looked down. A concrete slab spanned the ravine like an old cattle crossing. Beyond it, 2 miles of flat land. No sign of him, only my breaths and the lantern's ghost at my back. I called out, "Stop! Deputy Granger?" No answer. The wind whipped my jacket. I thought of his chant, "Find me." He was inviting me deeper into the trap, but I had no choice. I needed to end this. I needed to find him. I climbed down the ravine. My boot struck something halfway down, a laminated photo. I picked it up. It was me, a younger me, standing in front of the station, grinning in uniform. On the back, scrawled in the same uneven script, "Before the scars." My gut twisted. He'd taken everything, my history, my identity, even my image, and turned it into tokens of guilt. He'd lured me through every open wound. Now this. I pocketed the photo, holstered my light, and loaded my mission. Find him. I climbed the other side, stepping onto the dirt road again. The clearing, the frames, the tokens, they were all behind me. The road ahead stretched empty. I started walking, 45 at my hip, bullet belt snug around my waist, radio silent. The night breeze chilled me to the bone. I kept my eyes on the dark horizon, imagining him just beyond, waiting for me to crack, waiting for me to break. I walked until the road bent into two. One path led back to Van Horn, the other deeper into Wilbarger County. I paused at the fork. No map would show this decision. No dispatch would guide me. It was my choice. I closed my eyes, took a breath of cold air tasting like regret and resolve, and turned right, deeper into the night. And as I walked away, I felt the notebook in my pocket, the photo against my leg, and the weight of every memory strapped to me. They were ammunition now, evidence that I was here, that I had a heart under this uniform, that I could be wounded, and that I could strike back. I stepped onto the unlit road and let darkness swallow me. The chant still echoed in my mind. Find me, find me, find me. But this time, I whispered back, I will. I pressed forward into the inky black, each footstep a promise I whispered under my breath. I will. The road's fork had swallowed my tail lights, and the cruiser's hum faded until it was nothing more than a heartbeat at my back. All around me, the prairie stretched out like an ocean without waves, and the moon, crescent thin, barely cast a glow. My flashlight's beam carved a tunnel ahead, dancing across low brush and the occasional silhouette of a mesquite. The air tasted of earth and fault lines, dry, primal. As I walked, my mind raced back to the blast that nearly killed me, that night in Wilbarger County. The echo of the shotgun blast still rang in my ears. I remembered the roar of saber-toothed amber, the spark of steel under pressure, the hot sting on my arm as blood slid warm down my forearm. I had crawled from that ditch, my world narrowing to two things: surviving and never forgetting who had done it. I patted the inside of my coat where I kept that fragment of shell, smooth and oily, a grisly memento. I reached in, let the metal kiss my fingertips, and felt a steadying calm. It was a promise. Don't stop until you see his face. I trudged across a cattle trail that split the road, scuffing at hoof prints still fresh in the dust. I followed them, hoping they led to him. Instead, they led to a rusted-out pickup cab, stripped of wheels, its frame leaning like a forgotten skeleton. The wind whistled through the grill, a high, keening dirge. I swept my flashlight inside, bare metal bench, steering column bent back, dashboard melted by sun. The windshield was gone, shattered into fragments that glittered where the beam hit. On the passenger seat lay a single photograph, curling at the corners. Two children, grinning at a carnival, their faces unrecognizable in the dim light but familiar in composition. I lifted it gingerly, the surface sticky with resin. On the back, one word scratched in blood. Investigate. A tremor ran through me. The word wasn't a threat, it was an order. To investigate those children, whoever they were, whoever he had made me remember. I felt my pulse spiking. Anger, fear, guilt all churned together. I stuffed the photo into my pocket and turned back toward the road, letting the truck carcass sink into the dark behind me. Ahead, I saw a flicker. Amber light, like a lantern, swaying. I increased my pace, breath hitching as I neared a small outcropping of boulders. Behind them was a clearing littered with broken chairs and the remnants of a fire pit. A circle of scorched stones, ashes cold. The lantern hung from a steel rod driven into the ground, its glass globe cracked but still glowing from some unseen flame. I reached out, nearly touching the hot metal, and the light stuttered, then brightened. I lifted my flashlight higher and saw him. He stood at the edge of the fire pit, tall, ragged, a silhouette framed by the broken chairs. His back to me, coat torn, hair matted. He turned slowly, each movement deliberate, until he faced me. His face was obscured by shadow, but I recognized the tilt of his head, the way he balanced weight on one leg. He stepped into the lantern's circle, and the light revealed his features. He wasn't the mannequin anymore, but a man, and a damn good mimic. His eyes held mine. The same tired lines, the same hesitant spark. But his eyes were bloodshot, wild. He wore my uniform jacket, buttoned only halfway, the stripes of my rank pinned on crooked. Beneath, his shirt was stained dark, oil, blood, rust. He lifted his hand, and on his palm was another scrap of my life, the badge number I'd earned in the academy, engraved on a metal plate. "I've been waiting," he said, voice low but clear, not a whisper, a statement. The lantern's glow cast his shadow long behind him, creating the illusion of multiple figures dancing in the dark. "Why are you doing this?" I asked, voice cracking. The question wasn't meant to be rhetorical. I needed to hear it out loud. He smiled, a slow, calculated curl of lips. "To remind you," he said, "that every badge has two sides." He lifted the scrap of uniform that had startled me earlier, holding it out like a sacrament. "Everyone you saved, everyone you lost, they all come back. One way or another." My pulse thundered. I stepped closer, heel scraping gravel. I saved. I couldn't save them all. He laughed, a harsh sound that cut through the stillness. "But you tried, and you failed. You failed enough to deserve this." He gestured at the chairs, the fire pit. "Welcome to your own memorial, deputy." I swallowed and drew my weapon, leveling it at his chest. My hand was steady, but my heart felt like a drumskin stretched too tight. "This ends tonight," I said. The words felt hollow, but I had to believe them. He held up both hands. "Then come," he said. "Kill me or stop me, but you must face me first." I hesitated. Not because I feared death, that I'd done enough near-death dances to lose count, but because I recognized that whatever happened next would define me. If I shot him here, in the glow of a makeshift shrine, I'd be no better than the ghost I'd created. If I let him go, he'd kill again. If I fought him, I didn't know. He stepped around the lantern into the shadows. I raised my light and swept to the ground. He was gone. The clearing was empty except for my own reflection in the lantern's cracked glass. The chairs were tilted inward, as if conspirators in a silent play. The fire pit was cold, ashes gray. I could almost see steam rising from the photograph in my pocket, the faces still blurred. I kept my light trained on the center of the clearing and whispered, "Come on." Silence answered. Then, behind me, the soft snap of footing in brush. I whirled. The beam caught him standing 3 yards off, angled so his face remained in shadow. He held something behind his back, long, slender. I raised my light higher. It was a lantern hook, the same type holding the burning lamp. He'd broken it free. I swung the weapon down and advanced. "Who are you?" I demanded. I needed a name. I needed proof he was real, not my guilt or regret made flesh. He tossed the hook into the pit, and it clanged against stones. Sparks erupted from the impact, igniting a circle of dry grass. Flames licked upward, hungry. He stood back, arms loose at his sides. "I am you," he said. "The you keep locked away." The fire spread quickly, gold and orange against the darkness, searing the grass, sending sparks into the black sky. My flashlight reflected off his eyes, wild but calm. I felt my breath hitch, adrenaline spiking. The heat licked my face even from our distance. "My mistakes," he said. "Your omissions." He took a step forward, and I mirrored him. "Your broken promises to victims, families, yourself." I raised my voice. "You're wrong. I own what I did. I can't fix every life." He shook his head, stepping around me to the lantern. The fire crackled, consuming the scrub. I caught the scent of burning mesquite, dry and sweet, like an omen. He lifted the lantern from the pit. Oddly, it didn't burn him. The flame inside danced, alive. He held it out, offering it to me. "The light," he said, voice low. "You think it guides you, but it blinds you to what's in the shadows." I stared at the lantern as if it were the source of all my failures. I could reach out, take it, and perhaps learn its secrets. Or I could drop the weapon and run, back to the station, back to safe protocol, back to a life where midnight confessions were left unsaid. But I knew that if I ran, I'd be leaving him here, and the next deputy to come along might not be as experienced or forgiving. I took a measured step forward, finger trembling on the trigger. The fire flickered, orange tongues catching the edges of his jacket. Around us, the chairs burned, one by one, ash pluming like smoke signals. My breath came in tight rasps, and I felt the weight of every life I'd touched, every case I'd closed, every promise I'd broken. If I didn't stop him now, I'd be complicit in their deaths. I moved closer, aiming carefully at his center mass. The lantern's glow bathed him, painting his features in wavering light. Sweat gleamed on his forehead. He looked vulnerable, like a man under a spotlight pleading. I exhaled slowly. "I'm sorry," I said. "Not enough, but it was true. It was for me, for him, for everyone I'd failed." I squeezed the trigger. The shot cut through night and flame. The lantern flickered, then wavered, dropping from his hand. The hook clattered to the ground. He staggered back, one hand to his chest. I dropped to one knee, heart pounding. The fire roared, chasing me with heat. He fell to the dirt, eyes wide, reflecting the inferno. He reached out, palm up, as if begging. The knife, no, the weapon he'd carved from my memory, slid from his limp hand. I grabbed it reflexively, glancing up through tears I didn't know I'd shed. He looked so small under the flames. I rose, holstered my pistol, and knelt beside him. His breath was ragged. I pressed the knife aside and felt a shallow pulse against my palm. He coughed, smoke sputtering from his lungs. I sat back on my heels, the heat washing over me. The fire encircled us now, the clearing ablaze. I wanted to call dispatch, to radio for paramedics. But if they came, they'd find a scene too bizarre. A deputy on his knees over a would-be killer dressed like himself, chairs burning like coffins. No one would believe it. He coughed and whispered, "You did it." I nodded, though my brain felt like scrambled circuits. "I did," I repeated, voice husky. He smiled faintly. "Then find me," he said, and his eyes closed. He exhaled once more, and his head slumped to the dirt. I leaned over, pressed my ear to his chest. His pulse throbbed once, twice, then faded. The fire crackled louder. I felt tears burning on my cheeks, but the heat of the flames dried them faster than they fell. I stood, pulling the knife from the dirt. The blade was stained dark, as if with tar. I wiped it on my pant leg. I turned away, feeling the stench of smoke and victory and sorrow. Around me, the chairs burned to embers. The fire pit's circle glowed. Only the nurse log, the notebook in my pocket, and the masked memories remained. I walked back through the scorched clearing, leaving footprints in ash. The night air felt cooler as I passed beyond the fire's reach. I paused at the edge, looked back. The flames danced in the abandoned chairs, silhouettes twisting like ghosts in the wind. I whispered to the night, "I found you." And then I walked out of the circle into the black, leaving behind the remains of my worst self and, I hoped, the beginning of the man I still could be. I stepped out of the fire's glow and into a pocket of absolute darkness, the night yanking me into silence so consuming I could taste it on my tongue. The air felt thinner here. No crackle of flames, no echo of that zero-gravity confession. Only the desert wind, whispering through mesquite and sagebrush, carrying the faint scent of smoke and dust. I slid the knife into my belt and reached inside my jacket for the leather-bound notebook. The pages were damp with soot and sweat, but the ink remained legible, every date, every notation, every scrap of evidence he had compiled to map my life. It was a ledger of my failures, and now it was my roadmap to redemption. I clicked the flashlight off, relying on my night vision as I retraced my steps across the scorched clearing. The chairs smoldered, embers glowing like dying eyes. The fire pit's circle of stones stood out in the faint starlight, a silent jury waiting for my verdict. I thought about carrying those stones back to Wilbarger as proof, but evidence that burned in plain sight was pointless. Instead, I closed my eyes and let my senses guide me. The incline of the land, the North Star glinting low on the horizon, the distant drop of gravel underfoot. The road fork sat just beyond a rise of dirt, and I walked toward it without hesitation. At the fork, I paused, touching my jacket patch where my badge still lay pinned. I thumbed the edges, cold metal, sharp at the corners, and whispered, "I'm coming home." But home felt like a word borrowed from a life I could no longer claim. My family name, my old house, my ex-wife's final letter, they were all relics. Out here, only the badge meant anything. It tied me to the law I'd upheld and the laws I'd broken by ignoring my own wounds. I chose the left fork, heading back toward FM 2373 and the river crossing. The notebook's last entry pointed me there, the place where I'd stumbled through an ambush and felt my own blood soak into the dirt. I walked with deliberate strides, boots crushing gravel, the sound magnified in my ears. Each step brought me closer to the site of my worst defeat, the night I'd nearly died, and, I hoped, closer to the answers I chased. As I walked, I replayed that ambush in my mind, the way the shotgun blast had erupted like thunder, the pellet array tearing through my uniform, the flash of muzzle in the dark, and the sensation of falling into a cold crater, lying half-buried in dust and cacti. I'd survived, but I'd never understood why I'd been targeted. That attacker had vanished before backup arrived, leaving me to bleed out before crawling to safety. I still carried fragments of shell metal in my pocket, a piece of history I'd dug out of my own flesh with trembling fingers. I had thrown it away years ago, only to retrieve it each time a case haunted me. Suddenly, the road opened to the river bridge. 2 metal girders spanning dark water that whispered beneath. I stopped at the guardrail, beams of my flashlight probing the riverbanks. The water moved slow and dark, carrying secrets downstream. I knelt and ran my fingers along the rail. The metal was warm from the day's heat, cool now under the moon. I leaned over and peered into the churn, half expecting to see the reflection of that mannequin mask floating by. But there was nothing but ripples, ghostly and silent. I tapped the rail twice, once for the children in the photograph, once for the trailer field fire. "I see you," I whispered. Then I rose and turned off the beam, letting my eyes adjust to starlight. The riverbank was a tangle of dry brush and driftwood. I heard a soft snap behind me and spun, hunting for movement. A figure stood on the far side of the road, backlit by a single flickering street lamp that shouldn't have been there. Somehow, a lone lamppost had been planted at the bridge's midpoint, its bulb buzzing. I didn't recall ever seeing it on my previous patrols. The man stood motionless beneath it, dressed in black, head bowed. I clicked on the flashlight and walked toward him, each step crunching louder than the last. "Stop right there," I called out, hand on my sidearm. No response. I advanced, heart pounding. As I drew closer, I saw the man raise his head. Another mask, this one different. Not my face, but a distorted visage of a Texas Ranger, wide-brimmed hat and badge pinned to chest. The mask's eyes were hollow slits, the mouth twisted in a silent scream. I stopped 3 paces away, flashlight trained on the mask. "What are you doing out here?" I demanded. My voice echoed across the water. He remained still, then reached up and removed the mask, revealing a face I recognized faintly. An old station intern, Darren Holloway, who'd disappeared months ago. Holloway had been quiet, eager, a kid with dreams of joining the force, but he'd vanished without trace. Case file closed as runaway. I'd never believed it. Something about his last dispatch call bothered me, a broken sentence in the static. "They won't." And then nothing. Now he stood before me, hollow-eyed and gaunt, the battered leather notebook clutched in one hand. He lifted it and swiped the pages with a finger, as if they burned him. I took a cautious step closer, keeping the beam on his eyes, dark circles, pupils dilated, unblinking. "Why?" I asked. The word felt inadequate, a whisper in the wind. He took a ragged breath. "To show you," he said, voice hollow. "All the cases you never closed, all the lives you couldn't save." He opened the notebook to a fresh page where a new entry had been added. May 3rd, 2025, Pecos River Bridge. Deputy Granger arrives to inspect the scene of ambush. Encounter with lost soul. Next step, the reckoning. I swallowed hard. He knew my name. He knew this location. He knew everything. My pulse spiked. I felt trapped between river and road, between justice and madness. I reached for the notebook. He held it away, his limbs trembling. "I thought you were gone," he whispered, eyes fixed on me. "I thought the darkness got you. First," he traced hollow eye sockets on the mask. "But you survived, and so did I." His gaze flicked to the water. "I survived all those nights I was buried in your cold cases." He closed the notebook with sudden force, and I flinched as if struck. I planted my feet and leveled my flashlight. "Holloway," I said, voice low, "you're under arrest for impersonating law enforcement, vandalism, kidnapping, and whatever else you've done out here." I stepped forward, holstery jarring my hip. "Drop the book and put your hands where I can see them." He shook his head, backing away toward the river's edge. "Arrest?" he said. You want me locked up? You want to call for backup now?" He glanced at the lamp above us, its buzzing growing louder, the bulb flickering. There is no backup. There is no station. There is no dispatch. He hissed the words as if spitting out venom. "This world out here, it's mine now. Your world is gone." I felt heat rising, adrenaline flooding. "That's bullshit," I snapped. "This world belongs to the law." I reached for the holster. "Now give me that book." He laughed, a hollow, rattling sound that echoed over the water. He turned and ran, slipping past me in the darkness, sprinting across the road and vanishing into a stand of mesquite. I hesitated only a second before chasing, my boots pounding asphalt. I chased him across the bridge and into the brush, beam cutting through branches, jagged shadows slashing at me. The chase ended at the riverbank where driftwood formed a makeshift raft. He stood at its edge, notebook tucked under his arm. I skidded to a halt 10 feet away. The river roared below. The raft bobbed against the bank. Moonlight glimmered on waterlogged wood. He held the book out, silent challenge. I raised my flashlight. "This ends now," I said. He met my gaze, expression unreadable. He tilted the notebook, then tossed it onto the raft. It landed with a wet thud. The raft drifted into the current. He watched it drift away, then turned to me. "I release it now," he said softly, "but you must follow." He lifted his face to the stars. "You'll go after your past so deep that you'll drown in it. You'll chase that raft until it's gone, and you'll realize that closure is a lie." He stepped backward into the water, dry at first, then knee-deep. His uniform pants soaked and clung, blood mixing with river mud. He began to paddle with his hands, guiding the raft downstream. He didn't look back. I dropped to my knees at the water's edge, peering at the notebook floating toward the bridge. The current was swift, carrying it away faster than I could swim. My hand hovered over my pistol. The river's chill rose through my boots. I thought of the missing cases, the girl in Lamb County, the tanker bodies, the ambush, the station intern. They all drifted away now, bound to that notebook. I realized he was right. Some memories, once released, can never be retrieved. The lamp above us sputtered and went out, leaving only starlight and the river's restless hum. I watched the notebook fade under the girders until it was swallowed by black water. Then I rose, boots sinking into softened earth. My jacket was damp where the river spray washed over me. I stood on the bank, silence pressing in from all sides. No sirens, no flashlights, no answer on the radio. Just me, the river, and the night. I raised my head and shivered. Whether from cold or adrenaline, I couldn't tell. I pulled my phone from my pocket and typed a single message to dispatch. Found Holloway at river. Notebook lost. No backup. Will return to station. I hit send, even though I knew it would bounce. There would be no record of his confession, no proof of what happened. They'd find me later, likely cold, wet, and exhausted. They might even charge me with reckless pursuit or destruction of evidence, but none of that mattered. The river had taken his ledger, and with it, the tide of my guilt. I turned away from the water and walked back toward the road, toward wherever the cruiser waited. Each step sank me deeper into the night, and yet I felt lighter, as if letting go of that notebook had unshackled a weight. I glanced up at the sky where the moon slivered behind clouds and felt a strange calm. I had faced the darkest parts of myself, each phantom I'd hunted given form and dialogue, and had survived to tell the tale. No mask, no book, no river could drown me. The brush crackled behind me. I froze, hand on the small of my back. My breath hitched as I turned slowly, flashlight sweeping. There, at the tree line, I saw him, Holloway standing knee-deep in shadow, watching me. His uniform was torn, mud-stained, but he wore no mask. His eyes, though, were those of the doll-faced deputy who had haunted me in the trailer. He tilted his head, and I saw a glint of something in his hand. A photograph curling at the edges, the faces blurred. He raised the photo and brought it close, then spoke in a low whisper that carried across the riverbank. "Find me," and with that, he vanished into the night, leaving me alone under the bridge. The hum of the river filled my ears. I could still feel the weight of the badge at my chest, the echo of every case I'd ever closed or abandoned. The silence was nearly as loud as the gunshot that had ended the fire pit standoff. I slipped my phone back into my pocket and turned toward the bridge, toward the promise of the cruiser's lights on the horizon. I walked on, knowing that the next step would bring me closer to something, either my own salvation or the abyss I'd barely escaped. But I kept moving, because I am Deputy Ricardo Granger, and I don't stop until I find the truth.